I don't want to take a chance and pronounce your surname because I've heard different versions of the pronunciation. Can you place your full names on record, please?
Good afternoon, Chair. First name is Ashley, second name is Linton, and the surname is Houston.
Houston. Thank you very much. I will tell on him. Mr. Loftus pronounced the surname Houston.
That sounds like school. It's like the first name, Chair. If they say Ashley, I know it's receiver of revenue. But I'm called Linton at home.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you too. Thank you very much. Will you be swearing or affirming?
I'll be swearing, Chair.
Do you swear that the evidence you are going to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Captain Houston would have been the first respondent to the shooting incident in the Morningside. That is the one that we've been discussing relating to the 5 young men that were deceased, with obviously Bevan Loftus being at the center of that incident, Chair. And his evidence will be confined to that, but also given his experience of 38 years in the police and having worked in Durban, he will share some of his views on the connection between the tow trucks, the drugs, and to some extent the interaction with the police, Chair. Chair, we'll be using 2 files. So there's a file that it's written Ashley Linton Houston statement. And then we'll be using file 2. So we concentrate on only those 2 files, Chairperson, for the purpose of this witness. And for now, Chair, let's look at file 1, which it's file 1 in terms of his statement. File 2. Captain, you should have by you, there's a file with your statement inside. You will see that it says, when you open the first page, it says index to statement, and then it says description, statement of Captain Ashley Houston. Do you have that, Captain?
I do.
And then if you flip over, Captain, you'll see the actual statement. Do you see that?
I do.
And then if you go to page 12 of that document, Captain, you will see that there is a signature there appended under the name Ashley L. Houston. Do you confirm that to be your signature?
That is my signature, Chair.
And then do you confirm that the statement you prepared, it's for the commission, it's correct?
I confirm.
And you stand by the contents there too?
I do.
Thank you. Captain, I would want us to go through your statement just to assist the commission on the evidence that you need to give. But do feel free as you go on to give better explanation where necessary. And there might be some questions that are asking for clarity, either from me or the commissioners. I would want you to start with paragraph 1, dealing with the introduction, but please, Captain, don't read out your ID number, and also don't read out your cell phone number there, and also don't read out your home address.
So basically in paragraph 1, you may just say he's a 60-year-old adult. And that's it. So perhaps Captain, you should just move on to your career history. And there I would suggest that you should just highlight what you consider to be salient matters. That is, summarize instead of reading the whole. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Kickstart at paragraph 2 then.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Career history was on the 31st of March 2026. I retired as a captain of the South African Police Service. Reason being is I had turned 60 on the 26th of March. I had 38 years service and 31 days. So I went on full retirement, Chair. My career history in the SAPS is extensive as a result. I will only highlight a few achievements in my part on the statement, and I will expand where necessary during my oral testimony at the Commission of Inquiry. My career path as a policeman started in 1988, the 9th of February. I completed my training at Bishop Lavis down in the Western Cape, where I completed my basic training. I was placed as a constable after completing my training at Sydenham SAP, KZN Durban.
Sorry, Captain. I see that you are reading from the screen. There is an actual physical file. I don't know if it will make
I can read off
it will be easier. Are you happy to read from the screen?
I can read off the file. I'm good to read off the file, Chair.
Yes. Can you then?
Okay, I just caught my eye. I prefer to read
Yeah,
off the file.
I saw that your posture that you seems to be struggling from the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. I've always been in an operational environment whilst placed at SAPS, Sydenham. I was promoted 2 years later in 1990 to a full sergeant. The reason why I speak about full sergeant, pre-94 there was a rank in the police as a lance sergeant. You did not require to write any exams, you did an internal assessment, but I was busy at technical and RSA furthering my studies. In 1990, I was thereafter promoted to a warrant officer 4 years after serving as a full sergeant. I continued my studies, my second year studies at technical and RSA. I've served 18 years at SAP Sydenham, which ended in 2004. During my time at Sydenham, I underwent different training courses, including, but not limited to, including the detective learning program, which was held in Paarl, Western Cape. I underwent a course there to become accredited detective because I had moved from the VISPOL, that's the uniform environment, into the detective. So in that 18 years, I had changed the duties that I was doing at the station. So I became a detective and I underwent a course. I was successful in completing the course and I served at the detective branch for 4 years. That was all within my first 18 years. I did, after 4 years, took a transfer back to the VOSPOL environment where I became a team commander. I went back to an operational environment where I wasn't carrying or doing investigation. I was now working operational as a crime prevention operative with members under my command. In 2004, when South Africa was tendering for the FIFA World Cup, I just want to place emphasis on the year 2004. They may have been tendering earlier, I'm subject to correction, but it was during that period I was seconded to a shooting course where I competed at Vietnam shooting range with the top 20 shotters in South Africa. I excelled with all 3 weapons and came up in the top 5. So I was immediately seconded to training. I never went back to the station. My skill was identified that I was a good shotter. I'm breaking my statement down, Mr. Chair. I'm breaking my statement down because I'm going to try and keep it shorter. And if you pick up something, please, you can ask me, take me back. Whilst I was at training, I fell under Durban training, which was coordinated from the provincial office. I underwent courses to become an accredited trainer to the build-up. So I did my assessor examination through a company, Technical and RSA, and I went on to do a moderators as in weapons. The unit standards that I was expertising in or became accredited in training people was firearms within the SAPS. At the same time, I came up to Pretoria and I did a further course, which was with regard to the EDTP at Pretoria College. It was an 8-week accredited course. And due to becoming an assessor and moderator with CETA, I applied because I had a detective course to moderate members that underwent investigation courses. So I became an assessor moderator for anyone who went for that training. Between 2004 and 2010, I attended various training courses. I also became a range officer accredited. I trained down in Edo, and this was my period that I was seconded to training. So I was developed as accredited range officer, and it was a prerequisite because I worked with weapons and I was training people out at the range. That was all members of the SEPs in KZN, especially the Durban area, would undergo from a constable to a general, attended their training, the use of weapons, tactical policing 1 and tactical policing 2, as well as I didn't include their pyrotechs, that you'll be trained with stun grenades and other pyrotechs that we utilize in our police during our duties. Soon after the 2010, to fast forward, I decided to take a transfer. I submitted to the current commissioner of the time was a General Ngidi. My transfer, as there was no growth. I was a warrant officer, and there was no growth as in terms of there was no structure for promotion, and I was questioning my growth in terms of my career path. And I requested to leave, even though I had become developed and trained by the organization or the employer in various departments. I requested to start at Mabel, where he was reluctant at first to sign, but he was going out as onto retirement, and he, with my request on my knees, he signed my transfer to Mabel. So I reported to Mabel, the Visible Environment. As an operational commander, I was appointed by the station commissioner, who was a Colonel Van Zyl at the time. I worked at Mabel for 8 months, and during the 8 months, my name came up on a national list where I was promoted or considered for promotion to a lieutenant. Lieutenant's the old rank. It's the rank which is now equivalent to the captain rank. But I was penning at the time a grievance of where I applied for an operational commander's post in Brighton Beach, a captain rank, and I took up the lieutenant rank. With taking up that rank, I was offered 3 posts, so I had to leave Mabel shortly after 8 months. I reported to the provincial office in Durban, and I was identified. Obviously, management knew and members knew my skills from training and operations, so I was identified to work in operational environment. I was seconded to Durban South, that's to focus mainly on the Wentworth area because gangsterism was rife. So I had to deal with myself and my family in terms of my secondment, and I made requests to management that rather they give me a post out in Wentworth and let me take up a post, which they agreed to. I signed the undertaking and I took up a post at Wentworth. I became the operational commander heading the crime prevention at Wentworth. That happened in 2010, Commissioner. I reported...
Captain, before you move on, would it be fair to say, at least after 2010, as a range officer, would it be an overkill to say that at that time you have become now an expert in the use of firearms and accredited as a trainer?
That is correct. The skills which I was accredited into was the handgun, the shotgun, and the rifle which we used. I did develop and I did become an expert, not only in use, but also in training and facilitating. I would say a marksman in layman's language with the weapon. I would do what you could call, I would train people who are of average to medium to a high standard of weapons within the organization. For example, the normal station policeman will do an application shoot where they do a standing shoot onto a target. The dog units will do advanced shooting. The TRT will do advanced shootings. And I'll go on further to mention why the TRT, because the first selection of the TRT as part of it in 2010. I'll come back if there's questions arising with regards to training. But my arrival at and I was confronted by management, a major. That time the major rank was still like the lieutenant rank there. And I was informed, he was acting station commissioner, that the cluster commander, who was a Brigadier Mpete, requested me to report to him immediately at the cluster. Taking you back to my promotion that I was awaiting, there was a post, I remember 1818. It was in 2010, I applied for that very, very same post as operational commander where there were agreements going on. I came up number 1, it was overturned because of equity, and I kept that grievance even though I came up on the national list. So I ended up in that very same post. I reported to the brigadier, and when I arrived there, he said, "This is your team. I know you know what you're doing, and these are the stations your police wided and went with. You will focus on 6 stations which fell under Brighton Beach cluster." So I was stationed at Brighton Beach, overseeing the south. Brighton Beach Station, Wentworth, Montclair, Ambilo, Mayville, and there was one more. Cater Manor. Sorry, I missed that one. I'm not even looking at my statement here, so I'm just trying to take it up forward quicker. I worked at the Brighton Beach as an operational commander. My duties were dealing with gangsterism, drugs. We got terms that we use in the police as contact crimes, trio crimes, and property crimes. Property crimes, for example, business robberies, house robberies, where property is taken, common robberies on the road. Police-generated crimes was drug dealing, sale of illegal liquor, unlicensed premises. So that all became a package of mandate to deal with in the affected areas which I had to police in those policing precincts. And in the contact crimes was the more serious ones, as in the carjacking, the trio crimes, carjacking, business robbery, and house robbery. All those married my KPAs and my team that was working with me in those 6 stations. So I went up until 2017. There was a restructuring in the police where they closed clusters down, and they just changed the names to districts. So I was thereafter seconded to, it could have been, sorry, I'm subject to correction, could have been 2015. I had moved on to Chatsworth cluster. The general, at that time, there was a general as a station commissioner, but I reported to the cluster where there was a brigadier. And at that particular station, again, I had to deal with Marinnhill, but still on the south, Bayview, Chatsworth, and then those 6 stations that I spoke about. So I had a wider area, but I was operating now from an office in Chatsworth. But as again, there's gangsterism, drugs, there's robberies, as I mentioned earlier. I stayed at that particular office and operational as the operational commander. I worked with a team of about 40 members, which was seconded to me. Right up until 2017, I was identified to lead a team in Pinetown, the Tactical Response Team, that was the TRT. So I was called in by management, and I was told I was identified to deal with or manage a unit as I had the training, and I occupied the office in Pinetown where the helipad is just behind Pinetown Police Station. I had a team of 13 members. It was a small TRT group. That group During my tour of duty, we would cover all 43 stations in the province. We will deal with the crimes I've mentioned. Additional to that, taxi violence, stretching all the way up to Newcastle, Ladysmith, Quadakuza, Margate, and we can think of the KZN cluster.
Is TRT tactical response?
Tactical response to ones that we had the parades, Chair. So I headed that unit up until from 2017 to 2019. In 2020, I received a further call-up to report to the province. I reported to a Brigadier Carp. At that time, he was a full colonel. He's currently, I think, if he's still there, if he's still within the age group, he was head of operations at the provincial office. I became the lead member or the commander of one of the task teams on the 11th floor. My duties, again, my KPIs was to deal with serious violent crime, as in taxi violence, the drug problems, and anything the station could not handle with the district, then we would handle it from the province. When I say handle it, we'll go out and we'll police it with crime intelligence-driven operations. I will also assist, as far as, like I said, Newcastle, with the taxi problems, where there was violence, which was high at the time, where I would meet teams of Durban Pop, that's our crowd control. So they would deal with crowd control, but they be utilized. They had a small section that was selected to deal with taxi violence. That's people in uniform. I will meet them at the dam outside Newcastle, and we will do our operations, if maybe in Newcastle. That's just a small example of this task team that I was dealing with. We were, first of all, we were in uniform. We were easily identified, but we were a team of close to 30 members there from the province. I worked in this team up until 2021, between 2020 and 21, when I contracted COVID. It was the first variant. I had it serious, and I was one of the last in my team of about 35. We were only 11 at work when I collapsed at home, and I ended up in hospital for a while. I was on oxygen for a while in hospital, and I can say by God's grace, I pulled through because there was no medication that was working at the time. So on recovery, I went into the wing because there was slight memory loss. So the doctors needed, although I was not medicated, they needed to observe my cognizance and understanding and memory. And within 3 days after coming out of IK, I was discharged. I was a bit, if I would use the terms, paralyzed, as I could not walk. Those who had COVID would understand. Were affected by COVID. I had a quite serious way. Being physically fit at that time, although I was already I was over 50, but I kept myself relatively fit, but gradually I progressed to get myself to my fitness. I decided, because of my love for my job, to report back to the station, and I started where I started in 2010. I went to Wentworth and I had an arrangement with the station commissioner to work 2 or 3 hours a day, and that assisted me with my memory loss, as in terms of what I had forgotten during my illness. Once I had recovered, I received a call-up instruction. I was operational in Wentworth with this gangsterism and this violence that was happening.
Captain, can you just give me a moment? Just give us a moment. Thank you, Captain. We can continue. I think we're just wrapping up paragraph 9, where you're giving an account after you came back from your recovery from COVID. Yes.
Yes, I received a call-up instruction where I had to report to Durban Central to the district task team. That was a team that I ran previously, but not from Durban, from Chatswood. On my arrival at the district task team, I was able to speak to the general that is currently there, and I made a request that I do not want to travel wide. I was still on a recovery process physically, and I needed some space, and I preferred to rather go down to Durban Central because crime was extremely high in the city. She agreed, and again there, with consultation with the station commissioner, I was placed as an operational commander where all the operational members, the bike unit, crime prevention members, and the field unit members fell under my direct command, where I was operational with them. In my statement in that paragraph, I mentioned something that we were able in the first year to reduce, where business robberies was extremely high, to reduce with the strategies I implemented jointly with the team, our crime to 43% by 43%. So we had lots of businesses, chain stores like the Pedros, the Nando's getting robbed, the Tops Liquors, and we pursued suspects, brought them to book, and that resulted in a drop of crime in the city during that period. That's basically where I was operative until I was summoned on the 1st of the 23rd. May I proceed with that?
Yes, we are on page 4.
Page 4.
So you start
10.
at paragraph 10 under the topic relevant background. Then that will be dealing with the incident of
Yeah.
1st of April 2023.
Before you do that, Captain, and this is really out of interest, in that paragraph 9, you mentioned trio crimes. What is that?
Trio crimes is our serious crimes like carjacking, business robbery, and it's house robbery. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
May I
you.
proceed, Chair?
Yes, proceed.
Okay, on the 1st of April 2023, I'm going to say this, Chair. I know I had consulted with the evidence leaders, and there was a back and forth because I'm not at work, I'm retired, with my timelines. So I did not have anything that was accurate, and I don't want to follow any social media. So I had to look into proper timelines because it was a sworn statement I was going to be making. So I want to place emphasis on that. I knew it was where I was on this particular day, and I knew more or less it was mid-afternoon. So I have put there 13:20 p.m., around about then. On the 1st of April 2023, at 13:20, I was at Ridge Road, Bria, when I received the call via our radio control, that's flying squad. We're shooting at 3:40, the 6th floor Morningside flat, which I immediately proceeded to whilst I was patrolling. To give you timelines of driving normal, I was never a speed driver. I always took a slower vehicle, gave it to the younger people. It would take me under 5 minutes with normal traffic to get there. That's how close I was to this particular scene. After receiving this information, I arrived at the scene. I, en route, summoned one of my crime prevention vehicles with a senior warrant officer. With his crew, he had 3 members on a double cab. I said, please meet me because I'm responding to a possible shooting, which he did. And upon arrival at this particular address, I drove down a driveway which had boom gates as well as a guardhouse. And in this guardhouse was a Sergeant Swane. Coincidentally, I knew him for many years as a policeman. He also worked in a short time at Mayville under my command in the crime prevention. So I was able to identify him. He was in the guardhouse with 2 security guards. And I asked him what's going on because from the road or from the driveway, we could not see anything in that flat. It's a long driveway going down and then it's L-shaped to go into the building. And he confirmed that there is an operation and there is a positive shooting.
Captain, sorry to disturb you. Just to be clear, when you received this radio control call, there has been some instances where it was suggested that it was a domestic violence. On your call, can you clarify, was it a shooting? Or was it even specific to say it was a police shooting? Or what exactly did you, if you can recall?
No, clearly it was a police shooting. I would have not responded to a domestic violence with the type of job I was doing in Durban Central. I would have only responded, but I remember clearly it was a shooting. Nothing about domestic violence came to me.
Thank you.
Just to mention, before I went in, the vehicle that I was driving was a marked double Nissan Navara double cab, registration, Bravo Whiskey Kilo, that's BWK 575B. The 17 must come out there. Sorry, it's 557B. The registration's wrong.
557B,
7B.
so not 5757. I'll correct on my statement. You can also
I only picked it up now. I'm sorry, Chair. The registration number. It's the incorrect one.
No, I've corrected that.
Okay. I asked Zwane to accompany me into the complex. I drove my van, and I'm sure as seen on TV, those who have seen, there was only one police van that was parked there, marked vehicle in that flat. That was the vehicle I was driving. There was no other police cars where I was parked or police vehicles. It was load shedding, Chair, at the time. So when I got out of the vehicle and tried to maneuver quickly to the lifts to get up, because I was looking up into the building where there's movement of members, the lifts were jammed, so we had to use the staircase to get up. So I had to walk 4 to 5 flights of stairs up, which wasn't a problem, but I walked up. Upon arriving at the flat entrance, the flat is L-shaped, if I should describe it. I walked in the direction that I'm facing, this way, straight down, then I walked L-shaped. The flat was right on the end. When I got there were a few members standing outside, plain clothes, faces cladded, and I was approached by Captain Dina Govender, who is now Lieutenant Colonel. I know him. He knows me because they have also received weapon training from me. I trained them DPCI when they were still the Scorpions. They came for their training by me. So I told him I was there because of the shooting. He's aware that I'm the operational command in Durban, and I said I would like to go in just to verify what's actually happening. Whilst we conversed, and he allowed me to walk in.
Sorry, before you get there, Captain, was it your understanding that at least the first person that approached you, did it appear that he was the leader of the team?
Yes.
Okay.
He was the leader of the team. I knew that team.
Okay.
I knew that team.
And when you say there were 5 other members, can you recall their names?
I know the members. There was, I may not know the members off name, the 2 NIU members. There were 2 members from NIU, National Intervention. There was a Captain China that I saw there from Metro, a Warrant Officer Siva, and Warrant Officer Dina. There could have been, I did see Pedro. At that time, I think he was a warrant officer. Recently promoted, I think, after this. But I saw him and I saw one white other member, which was unknown to me. But I eventually found out later he was from organized crime, Peter Maritzburg. But they were all up there. Just to indicate the entrance of the flat, the little passageway that you needed to get to the door. They had a piece of tape there. And on request to Captain Dina Governor to allow me in, which he did, I was stopped by one of the civil. He asked me where I'm going to and what am I doing. And not to get into any arguments with him, Captain Dina Governor said, it's fine. The captain will be able to identify these people. I think that statement was made because they knew I worked on the South. They knew where I came from training, and I've only been in this province with policing, so it was common course I would know most of the people like they would know me in the Durban area. I walked through.
Captain, just so before you walked into the flat, is it a fair interpretation to say that conversation would have alluded to a suggestion at least that they did not know the identity of the people that were shot?
I would think so. Because it was strange. One of Sedina's body language was like, quick, I let the captain through. You'll be able to identify. I think he tried to justify, this is Captain Dina Governor, tried to justify to one of the civil who was coming out from there, the captain will be able to identify. I think that's the only reason what justified him, say, okay, you can go through. Otherwise, maybe I would have had a problem, but I would have been persistent because I was the first responder there. I was responding to the shooting. So I walked through and led by Captain Dina Governor. As I entered the flat, the door was slightly ajar. As I entered the flat, I saw the deceased laying on the floor, and I walked down further, and to the right, which was like blind side of the passage that I entered, there were the other 4 deceased were laying there. I was able, with a quick glance, a very short while, stay in the flat because I did not want to contaminate anything. I knew it's a scene of crime. I'm just going to confirm, look in, and I'm going to reject. But with that, I had moved my eyes around the flat quickly. Just it's my first time going in here. I looked at it and I then went through. But I made out or identified 2 of the 5 males. I identified the late Bevan Loftus, and I identified the second male, which I knew as Ryan. I don't know his surname. If I hear it, I'll say it is his. I didn't know his surname, but I knew him from social media and from a lot spoken on the streets. I saw a video of him shooting on his wedding day with an AK-47 on social media. Just which platform it is it popped up on the TikTok. I'm only on WhatsApp and TikTok. I'm not on Facebook, Instagram, and all these other things. So I wondered who is this guy, and there's the same guy that was lying in the flat.
In the statement, you say Ryan Santos.
I would have confirmed by making my statement because I made my statement recently, but at that time, I only knew him as Ryan.
Yes.
I didn't know him by surname. When I came out...
Before you go out, Captain, you say at paragraph 16, you confirm that 5 males were shot dead. And perhaps it's a pedantic question, but how do you know that they were dead? Did you test them? Did you check the pulse?
The damage done there's no way of survival. Everyone had headshots. Leave the body shots. I know exactly the killing spots on your body. So, as a weapon expert, I'm saying this as a shotist, test me. I know exactly where to kill you, the killing shot went to. So they all had headshots. So I didn't even scrutinize the bodies. There was no need, whether they were shot 5 times, once or 3 times, but they were deceased. These guys were gone. I got there, Chair, I want to mention, I got there very quickly, and I would say so from my experience in terms of the blood splatter, or the spilling or the bleeding of the deceased. It hadn't even settled. The blood was still very fresh. It hadn't even started to dry. So that's how quick I was at that scene. When I say quick, I could have been, if I were to use my experience going to shootings in progress in the CBD, which I did cash in transits, I done shootings in taxi ranks where it's still happening. I can hear the shots. I would have been there within easier than half an hour, the most. In fact, half an hour would have taken me from Durban to Maritzburg driving normal. But I would have been there within minutes after I got the call. So whoever raised the alarm to 10-111 with a complaint, that those shots, that there's a shooting, that is when I immediately said I'm going. And I broke on the radio and called one of my bands to say, back me, we got a positive shooting. So I'm speaking about the blood because you come to a scene and you see blood is starting to dry, it gets a different smell, it gives off a different smell. When I walked in there, I couldn't even smell blood.
From your experience or even information that you may have subsequently obtained, what's your estimation? Are you able to estimate how soon after the shooting incident the call would have come through, the distress call would have come through, and you then end up at the scene? And I ask because the previous witness speaking about task teams said something about often these members of task teams, they take long to inform, to report the incident to IPID, and IPID takes forever. Are you able to give us an estimate?
Chair, I will comment on that because I've been following the commission from day one, not because of this. I never knew I'd be sitting here one day. But just firstly, to answer the first part of your question, how soon, if a distress call is made on the radio to our control room and then it's relayed to us, I would say that call could have come very soon after that shoot. If it was delayed by 10, 15 minutes, that blood would have started to dry, although it was winter. With regards to where I'm going to now is what do I do after I confirm that there's a positive shooting? I'm not asking one of Sadina questions, who shot? I now need to call all the role players. What I used to do on a state phone is to put an active crime scene, because it becomes a crime scene. But I chose not to do because now I have different units involved here. It's a task team and it's a variety of members. So I liaise with radio control of the radio and I requested they get all the role players. And the role players I called for was the ambulance. The ambulance will do the certification, even though I knew they were deceased. The patrol van to come open a case. The detectives that are in, we got detectives that sit in the charge office, which attend to crime scene. So you don't need to call a detective from his house 24/7. They're in the station. So as soon as there's a crime scene, they leave the station. They mobilize and leave the station. The duty officer, the station commissioner, and the branch commander. I do not go as far as knowing with ethics. If the provincial commissioner or the district commissioner would be involved, they would be contacted by the station commissioner, who did arrive. But when I arrived there,
What Commissioner Baloy is asking, you were not called by the policemen involved in the shooting.
no, I
You
was
received the call via a distress call where a member of the public would have said there has been
the shooting. That's correct.
Yes, because the earlier witnesses Commissioner Baloy is referring to, they were criticized because they would take time before they called other teams to come and assist in the scene. So
Chair,
you were not called by the shooters? Or
No,
people
I was not
involved in
called by the
shooting?
shooters. I will comment about that with the previous witness because the role players is also IPID. It's a police shooting. Whether it is a discharge or a dispensing of a stun grenade, IPID gets called out. I want to comment on that because I followed it and, sometimes we got all postmortems on what has been said. And I watched this from home yesterday that firstly, no member that's like me operational with a rifle going to clear a house where there's suspects. No operational member has IPID's number on their phone, speed dial. I secure their state phone, no IPID's number. Even if IPID has contacted me for statements for my members, involved with allegations of shooting, assault, corruption, whatever it may be they're investigating. So when you deal with radio control, that controller silences everyone on the radio. That controller extracts your information and makes sure all the role players, they actually go into more detail. What firearm was used? What's the serial number? And then I say, hold the lorry, call me. Because we're speaking where everyone's listening to this. Even if that radio's been scanned, everyone is listening to a shooting scene. So we try and keep it where limited information leaks out where it shouldn't be leaked out, as in terms of who we're calling out, the protocols. So I would say, call me. And I would say, get iPad, get this person, get that person. On the story about not calling iPad, no operative or member, I know all the years in the police, will call iPad out themselves. That has to be done by radio control, or if you got a VOC in your station, and that VOC's monitoring. Because it's a police shooting or incident involving escaping or with the police, they will contact iPad. Now, just to
Somebody mentioned a duty officer. What is the role of the duty officer in that scenario that you've just described?
The duty officer will come and he will verify that all his members are there, and he will do a factual, or she will do a factual report on actually what transpired. So we'll come and interview all the role players that were involved at that scene, not necessarily take their statements, and then when they go back to the station and statements are now being confined and placed into the docket, he will do or she will do a final report because they need to escalate everything.
So I interrupted you. Duty officer does not call IPID. So tell us who calls IPID.
The controllers, because their numbers are right there. In 10-111, if I say now there's a shooting here, accidental discharge, it's a police shooting, radio control here in Pretoria will call IPID immediately, because if there's omission, you deal with radio control, not the shotters.
So if there's a delay in calling IPID, the fault is not the police officer.
It's not the police.
It is radio control.
Yeah, I just want to tell you the flip side of the coin, Chair. Operationally, I went out from a lot of locations where my members or myself was involved with a shoot, where IPID was under-resourced or couldn't get a vehicle into, let's just say, a 4x4. They had a normal sedan to get into a rural area or a dangerous, volatile area, where we will go and uplift them, meet them halfway in a safe place and bring them to the crime scene. That's also a delay. But realistically speaking, my experiences, and this is the truth, it's gospel, when it comes to IPID, they don't attend all scenes. So when IPID is contacted, it's like contacting fingerprints or forensics. There's a reference number that's given. So if the standby member does not come out because of a logistical problem, because they overslept or they didn't answer their phone, then there's a reference number given. That reference number is given to the duty officer. And it's endorsed in the docket, because when we sit as management the next morning and we're discussing the cases, not just that particular case, we say there was a police shooting. Well, all role players there. Did the detectives go? They must comment. Did LCRC come there? That's the fingerprint, forensic people, yes. How long did the mortuary take? Because they dispatched from Pietermaritzburg to come to Durban. All those things get accounted for. So if IPID didn't come, then it's endorsed in investigation diary. IPID did not attend. They could come 2 days or 3 days later and come sign for the docket and take the docket away.
Thank you, Captain. We've digressed a bit, so maybe you can go back to your statement.
Thanks, sir.
Sorry, Commissioner Baloyi, just on that point, just to wrap it up, is it a fair understanding of your testimony that if there is an expectation or a policy that the shootist ought to call IPID immediately, that is not realistic? And if this commission was to consider some of the reforms is to deal with some of those issues, that is not what actually happens in reality, that the shootist will be the one who calls IPID to come to attend to the scene. Is that a fair understanding of your...
No. It's not, the onus is not upon the shotters. I stick by that. There are role players at that scene to make sure, but when the distress call goes out to radio control, the transcripts are there. They inform, contact IPID. And if IPID has been delayed, they will reiterate and say, please call IPED out to the scene. The scene cannot, no police shooting, no escaping. IPED has to be there. We'll go without IPED being there.
So in short, that expectation is not correct then.
It's not correct for the shutters to call. Onus is not upon them.
All right, thank you. Captain, I think you dealt with, when you're dealing with Commissioner Baloyi, when it comes to Ryan, can you deal with then paragraph 17 and 18? Because you said you were able to identify Bevan Loftus. Can you then explain to the commission how were you able to identify him? And in those instances, you deal with the incidences where you have met him previously. Can you deal with that, please?
Commissioner, in 2010, when I was based between 2010 and 15 in Durban, in Durban South at Wentworth, the late Bevan Loftus was a notorious figure already. The station commissioner of the time I was serving, coincidentally, was my station commissioner at Mayville when I arrived there for those few months. He was a Colonel Panzale, which was studying his LLB, and once he achieved it, he had taken early pension or resigned. But coincidentally, he got promoted to a full colonel, and he was moved to Wentworth as a station commissioner. So when I had taken up a post, I ended up working under my ex-station commissioner, which I served for 8 months. So there was a relationship. When I arrived, he said immediately, I know you know what you're doing, Houston. This is your team. Fix this gangsterism thing up that's happening. Fix this problem, which that's how we spoke at a management level in absentia of our members. So I would strategize how we would go, either doing road shows or doing proactive policing or reactive policing, whatever we did, to improve the situation. But coming back to how I could identify Bevan. Bevan was arrested by me on request of the station commissioner saying there's a case open. I do not have the case number, by the way, where he had threatened to shoot a policeman. The policeman's name was Warrant Officer James. He was working in the one crime prevention unit, but not direct under me. He worked alternative to the group that I was working. And what the station commissioner disclosed to me was that nobody wants to arrest him, as to go for him, because there was a fear. Sorry, I'm just having water here. So I did a patrol with my team. I looked for Bevan. I couldn't find him. I didn't go into the Bluff area, which is like beyond my patrol area when I was at Wentworth. I left it and I said, I'll obviously come across him because he's notorious in the Wentworth area. I was coming from the area which I live. I'm not going to mention it. Before the panel, on the M4 I was heading, and as I came off the M4 into the Wentworth area, there was a patch, where they called it a patch, where I saw these 3 tow trucks parked. I was going to start duty about 10 o'clock in the morning because I used to work a flexi. I was alone. I always worked alone on my vehicle and my members close in other vehicles. And I saw him. I approached him and he knew who I was because they aliased me Robocop in Wentworth. Obviously, I was fully attired when I worked with equipment. But I approached him and I said to him, you're a person of interest. I know that you carry a firearm. I know that you have a licensed firearm. But I need you to make your firearm safe and hand it to me. I'm taking you in. The detectives need to speak to you. He was standing with about 8 guys there by these 3 tow trucks. They were smoking whatever under some form of drugs. Could have been dacha. I was not interested in that. I was alone. But I managed to apprehend him, place him in my vehicle, front seat, and I drove him to the police station. But I had his firearm with me. It was a 9mm pistol. When I got to the station, I took him straight upstairs. And I informed the station commissioner at that time to please get hold of the investigating officer. He has access on a computer to see who's carrying that docket. Because he's an outstanding suspect for intimidation case where he threatened to kill a policeman, a warrant officer.
Captain, when you're told that he's notorious and no one wants to arrest him, what was his notoriety? What was said he's notorious for?
With my short arrival, I would say when I arrived in Wentworth, I had a small team. I had to work for a trusted team. When you say a trusted team, I had a small team of 1 female and 4 males. And there was diversity. I had 3 Indian members. I'm going to speak across the race group, young members. I had 1 new constable colored and 1 new female constable. And the 4 were resident Merebank Wentworth. They lived in that community. The female lived in Sydenham. So when I had to familiarize myself with the different territories in Wentworth or the different gangs, they were of much of assistance to me. So I was able to identify quickly which type of gang is operating in which street, because they don't have it's not widespread Durban gang and Maritzburg gang. It's very close. Streets divide the gangs in Wentworth. So just to come back to answer you, Chair, I used to see this guy sitting where the Hollywood gang is in Woodville Road. Even though I knew that his granny was in Reicher Road. And Reicher Road was where a notorious gang, the Young Destroyers, was from. But he was not sitting with that gang. He was sitting with the Hollywood. And that Hollywood gang was led by a person, I don't know if I should name him, but he's a fugitive at the moment. He's someone that's wanted as a sentenced prisoner. He's sentenced, but he's somewhere on flight. But that's where I would see him sitting. You know, like you'd see these gangsters sitting, and I say, who's this? You know, you look at a face, you say the guy's got an innocent face, but then these young people would say, hey, you know, who's this, Cap? This is so-and-so.
I guess my question is you did listen to the previous witness.
Yes, I did.
His father. And I'm just trying, when you say he was notorious, I'm trying to understand, notorious that he's a gang member, that he's a drug person, that he has serious criminal allegations against him. I'm just trying to understand what were you told he's notorious for?
Chair, the Hollywood gang is not an honorary gang. And I had a previous witness say it's no more. There's no such, it's no more. This gang was dangerous, just like any gang in Wentworth. They were a feared gang. There was 2 gangs that were opposition, and they took each other out. There were funerals every weekend night to police in Wentworth. Sometimes double, sometimes triple funerals, of ages of youngsters of all kinds. And these gangs were policed harshly by us. When I say harshly, there's some media, obviously, they put where we made arrests and that they actually felt we harassed them, both sides. But when I say notorious, he never moved with a friend that he schooled with. He moved with the head of the Hollywood gang, which is somebody that is running for murder, sentenced already.
Thank you.
So was he notorious by association, not because he was wanted for a particular crime? Because there's a difference. If you say he was notorious because he moved with this gang or that gang or that gang, that's different from saying he's a known killer or he's wanted for
place,
committing.
Chair, the place where he's sitting is not just sitting where you're sitting and having a social. It's a yard that's got about 6 pit bulls. It's got people with unlicensed guns in there. It's got walls about as high as the ceiling. Every time I did a raid there, we had to breach, as in terms of pass the walls and then pass the pit bulls before we get to them. And drugs are sold live as we sit here. Even if we call someone out to say, just go do a live video with us, it's sold live there. So you're not sitting where you're saying you're talking to an ex-gangster or someone's reformed from prison or a school friend. You're sitting right there. So, you know, I don't know if it's correct to say the birds of the feather flock together. How would you label me if I'm sitting in a drug den, if my brother's a drug dealer? You're going to obviously say I'm dealing in drugs. Whether you smoke or you don't, whether you drink or you don't, he's not moving where I say, coincidentally on a sports field, or maybe coming out of a church service or a youth service or a program. You're sitting in a drug den. It's more clearly Hollywood. The shootings happened right there. The killings happened right there. The whole community knows this. Wentworth is crime. But I've seen this thing. It's like nobody wants to speak about what's happening. But that is what's actually happening. But I know this Bevan is late. He's no more. But Bevan associated himself not with two gangs, with one gang. He was part of Hollywood. Just to place emphasis on it. I've learned, during my few months left in the police, I've learned about the west side and the east side. And that west side and the east side goes across KZN, maybe South Africa. But just to take it back home domestically, they belong to the west side. So these gangs have expanded, where they say you're either from the west or the east side. You hear these talks, it's like it loses you. I gotta keep asking the younger people, hey, what's west side? What's this east side story? And then it comes out, they tell you. So you don't hear this Hollywood, cartel, young destroyers, the young Americans, you don't hear that. But you'll hear west side. Then you identified as you, the same kind as me, we're not enemies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. I think you are going to then, because you've dealt extensively with the first encounter, at paragraph 18, you deal with the second encounter with Bevan, where he was a complainant in this instance.
Yes, I went on again. Bevan and his dad somehow were in business. But Bevan walked into the station and opened a case of theft of motor vehicle against his dad. It was for a combi, as in a quantum taxi. Again there, this is how we worked as a reaction team from Wentworth. As soon as there's a positive suspect or person of interest, we don't let the case get cold. If the statement is strong, you identified. Your place of residence was as small as my fist, if I say this. There's no hiding space. You can't run. We will go bring you in. And like I say, yes, maybe that's why I was aliased in a different way. But I'm saying this, we'll pursue you. Bevan opened a case where his dad was the suspect. And that took me to his house. What took me to his house was, again, the detectives were not following through on the docket. The suspect was outstanding. And they knew they're not going to go take that vehicle from his father, which was an exhibit. I went up and I dealt with the matter. Did not meet his father. The very three houses described are right next to each other like my three fingers. Got a long driveway. You wouldn't be able to say who's staying in which house there. When I was given an address, a mark of where I could find the taxi, I was looking the 1 yard behind the house. I was being told by neighbors, but all three houses are owned by this family. So I was a bit confused. It was in the Brighton Beach area, which is just up across from Wentworth. And I spoke to Bevan's mom. She spoke over the wall. She said, her husband's at work, and what do I want? I said, he's, again, person of interest. Bevan has opened a case. There's a case number. I would like to access the vehicle. I saw the vehicle, but I could not remove it because the dad was at work, allegedly. In the evening, before I could finish the tour of duty, the dad arrived with Bevan in the station, and both attacked me as to why I was there. But he was the complainant. To summarize it, he withdrew the charge against his father. So they most probably sorted their issues out after the visitation by me. Had his dad been there, he would have been arrested by me. And the Kumbi would have been seized as an exhibit and impounded. So that is how the question was, how do I know Bevan or his dad? I don't know his dad from the police. I know him from these occasions. Because on both, when Bevan was arrested the first time, the dad did the same thing. He came to the charge office and he made it personal. And I'll go on to where I met him at the entrance at the main crime scene. What was actually happening there?
Yes, we'll deal with that one later. So at paragraph 18, you deal with at least where you associate Bevan with the Hollywood gang in the neighborhood. So I don't think we need to repeat that because you have explained that. And paragraph 19, you have already at least given the commissioners an account of what you did when you went outside, where you called all the role players. Unless if there's anything else you want to emphasize on paragraph 19, when you were activating the role players, then we can move to paragraph 20.
I think we should move to paragraph 20 because I covered it. If there's anything you need to question me on clarity, I will cover it. Thank you, sir. On paragraph 20, I'm going to summarize it. As time went on, it was now going into the mid-afternoon, past 3 o'clock, all role players had arrived. The LCRC, the forensic team arrived, so they took over the scene. So these role players, this task team under Lieutenant Colonel Gina Governor, had now removed themselves from the top of the flat and they went into the basement, which you cannot see from a public eye. I went down myself, and during that time, there was a lot of talk, the ministers arriving and e-news was arriving and communications was arriving. Our provincial commissioner, I remember he came because he was even denied access. One, he didn't know who he was personally. He was denied, so we had to arrange for him to be accessed. But he was accessed, he arrived. He wasn't contacted by me. The station commissioner arrived, the ex-station commissioner. So I did see them, but I did not communicate to them. I did say I was the only police vehicle within the crime scene, besides the LCRC. Again, the proof, not that it's been disputed, is whenever they blow this up on TV, on media, I see the van. My grandson sees, he says, there's your van, Dad. So that van is the only Nissan Navara in Durban. So having this van, I walked down to where this team was, and again, when I met this team, I could confirm now exactly who was there. So they were standing in a group next to a BMW, but the metro car was there, the organized crime constable from Peter Maritzburg's unmarked car was there, Captain Chabon, China's car was there, that's a metro dog unit vehicle. One of Sir Pedro was captain today, his car was there. They were standing and they were trying to work out something, so I joined them and then I arrived at a point where they were trying to move the so-called person arrested earlier in the day. And I don't want to mention his name, but that particular person, they needed him moved to Pinetown Police Station. So one who was standing with me at the time, and I offered. I said, I will assist you all because there's no need for me to stay at the scene. I will go with one of your members and we'll transfer him. The place of his movement to Pinetown Police Station was kept secretive because of security, to give the chair a clear understanding what happened on that day. We were running parallel events in Durban. There was rugby and soccer. It was a Saturday. So we had armored vehicles, Nyalas, in the stadiums. I have access as an operational commander where I also oversee events. So I have access to communicating with those commanders that are placed at these events. So I requested, knowing that the road was getting very busy, and by then I, on my state phone, did get a call from home. I also got a picture which was taken at the scene, sent to me, to say, look what's floating around. And I said to my wife, I called her, I said, please switch off the TV, and I don't want my family to see what's happening here. It wasn't nice, as in terms for people to see that, because I don't know how far on social media this thing is. So I had called before I'd left with the male that was arrested, or the suspect was arrested earlier. I had called for 2 sections of the POP guys to come down to the street to lock it down. The reason, because of that, a picture went viral on social, and that drew people from all walks of life who had interest in this drive-by shootings and these killings that were going on in the Durban area and surrounding. So that road got, from a quiet road, it got very busy. And I could see it from the flat, and I said it's time we lock down the road. So to give a clearer indication, with any crime scene, you have the inner and you have the outer. If this is a crime scene, I'll cordon this whole scene and I'll cordon outer, so that people don't come in and hear what you're discussing in terms of who's the deceased, whatever, because sometimes you don't need any information to leave until the scene has been sorted. So I locked down using, with the assistance of one of the squires, that's my crime prevention, to place those nyalas. And I said to the commander, I'm going to need them indefinitely placed because this crime scene doesn't look like it's going to be an hour. It's going to be more than that. And just to sensitize you, that crime scene went on for almost a week. I had to place members to guard it. So even though the bodies were removed early hours of the morning, I know I'm hopping, as skipping part of my statement, we still had to guard that scene for a week. When I say there was work to do at that scene, I was only involved with placing of members. I was no longer involved besides looking what happened there and calling role players.
Captain,
So,
before you move on, just give us a better understanding. At paragraph 20, you say that there is this young black male inside Captain Tina Govenda's BMW that is being handed to you.
that is correct.
Did they inform you as to why he was detained?
Yes, I by then already knew because they were talking. I could hear that this guy was arrested with an AK-47 rifle and he was arrested with drugs. So there was some association with him and the deceased. That's how they arrived there. So he was seated in the BMW, which had tinted windows, and that BMW I know the car comes into Durban Central Station. It's driven by Lieutenant Colonel Tina Govender. He was in the back seat, so I said I'll transfer him with Zwane. Zwane was seconded to them at the walks. I said, long as I got a rifleman, we'll take him away from here because they can't leave the scene. So we loaded this male. This male wasn't handcuffed. He didn't have leg irons or nothing. So I wondered, is suspect AK-47? I don't operate like this with suspects. I'll cable tie you same time. But he had treatment like where he was very casual. So I thought, well, they were here before my time. I'm going to have to just treat it the same. So I warned this guy. I said to him, you're a suspect or you're not handcuffed. So don't try anything, you know. So Zwane sat next to him in the van. And I drove out. By the time I drove out, there was a crowd outside this complex. And that crowd was not just the deceased's family. There was other people of interest. So there was opposition. I picked it up in my eye. This is rivals. And I drove out and I said the shortest route for me to get out to Pinetown was, if you know Durban, was to take the M19. Not to go up Spaghetti the long way up the N3 like you're heading to Johannesburg. It's to go down Quarry Road, past the Macro, Springfield, straight up the M19 and I'll end up in Pinetown. I managed to get to Pinetown and this is the time frame I want the chair to know. When I reached Pinetown, it was already the change of shift and now I know this. It's now 1800 hours from the afternoon we arrived. Because a Lieutenant Colonel Wood, which worked with me in Sydenham years ago, was now in charge of the cells. And when I walked in and he saw us with the suspect, he said, I saw your van, you're involved with a shooting. And then Zwane was wearing a Hawks t-shirt. So I just said to him, we need a quiet space as to hold the suspect until he's detained. He said, no problem, and he gave us an area to wait for the person to come process. Now I'm speaking about time, Chair. The time was now past 6. The shifts had changed, it's night shift that's on. So if you look at time, if I was managing my time, I was like close to 4 hours busy with this same issue. 10 in the scene, speedily, assisting now to remove this guy with transport to Pinetown. When we got to Pinetown, that is where it became a concern. And it gave me opportunity while we were sitting there, which was normal of a policeman, to start talking to the suspect. And I had to explain to him who I was, because I was in civilian dress as well. And I managed to speak to him and ask him, where's he from, what he does, and so on. And the indication
Now
that he-
reading from paragraph 29. Have we skipped the other paragraphs?
Yes, he has jumped to paragraph 29 on page 9, where he's dealing with the transportation.
Transporting the suspect.
The suspect, yes. So it's 29 and 30.
May I continue, Chair?
Yes,
If you need to take me back, what I'm doing, I'm not reading my statement verbatim because I know this thing as far as I remember it. So I had opportunity to even find out his background. What did he do for a living? He said he was an Uber driver, then he became a tow truck driver. Then he was supposed to be transferring a vehicle. The same vehicle was arrested. In the same day, there was papers to transfer it onto, I think, Bevan's name, he said. And I didn't realize that that vehicle was a vehicle used in a previous shooting because I hadn't seen the vehicle at the scene. And I was not present when he was arrested. And then I went on further to find out his family background, and it was then he disclosed to me where his mother of his children works, and how many kids he has, and where the police had taken him to, where he had further exhibits which were seized by this unit. So I won't discuss that because I was not part of it, but he confirmed that there was items seized, he was cooperative, and then that's how they ended up in Morningside. So I kept it in the back of my muscle memory that this guy has a landmark where he stays, he has a family, he has a spouse. So should he, let's say, hypothetically escape one day or go missing, I know who to ask questions. And one would ask, why would you say that? The mere fact that I had him in my custody, it was a prerequisite to question him as to who are you? What's your name? Even though I do not remember his surname. To fast forward, when I was dealing with the evidence leaders and I was dealing with IPAD previously, it was alleged that they lost this person. But due to what I furnished them with, they were able to locate him. I'm not going to mention who and where. So I was given a phone number.
But before you do that, you say something in that last sentence in paragraph 29. His association with Bevan.
Yes, I did question him. He did say he's a middleman. He only keeps the weapons and he keeps the drugs. On this particular day, he was taking the drugs to Newlands and then he was going to meet with them. He didn't mention that to me.
Thank you.
I did not include names here, but he also mentioned, besides Bevan, another deceased. He wasn't too sure that guy was there. He said that guy's gone on a trip, as on a boat trip, as with the MSC, the trip that takes you out for 3 days. So he was unaware that this guy was in the flat, as basically confirmed normal or deceased.
In simpler terms, Captain, when you say that, because you use the word middleman, what does that mean? He was middleman for Bevan.
Yes, what he says, whenever it comes to moving or storing or keeping on the guns, because he's in an estate, they would leave everything with him. They entrusted him to keep it. That was his role playing. And I still wanted to associate because I've never seen him in Wentworth with this guy during my period that I was policing, because even when I moved from Wentworth, I moved to Brighton Beach, I still oversaw Wentworth. When I moved to the provincial task teams, I still oversaw Wentworth, even though it took me wide and far. I never seen this youngster. This gentleman was the first time I've seen him. And I was asking questions of interest, which he was not being forced, but he was talking. Because we were very calm. Zwane, as a member, or was a member that was never vocal, very reserved, very professional, and he wouldn't interrogate you by questioning you. That's one. So I was doing most of the talking with him. And what kept me talking to him was we waited for a long time. From when I left that scene, which takes me less than 15 minutes from the scene up to Pinetown, I was sitting in that holding cell area almost till about 8, 8:30, and I was getting agitated. But I had a phone number, because before I left, I said to the Captain Dinner Governor, please give me a number so I can phone you, because I don't have their phone numbers. And he gave me a number. So when I phoned him after an hour and said you're sending somebody to come process your suspect. Now he's sitting here, nobody's come here. He did not answer. One of the Siva answered. And I'm saying, is that Captain Dinner? He says, no, it's Siva. I said, I need to speak to the captain. And he sort of like, we come in now. Eventually, after about 2.5 hours, after I made off my state phone, several calls to them to say that I am going to leave this guy and I'm going to go home. I'm in the duty off. It's out of my time. I'll drop Zwane and I'll go home. An NIU member, National Intervention member, one member arrived. When he arrived, I was quite happy to see his face because I identified as the same one I saw at the scene. I don't know his name. I'm not going to even mention it if it's mentioned. But he said he's there to process the suspect. I was shocked that the NIU member is now going to write a statement. So I looked at him and I looked at the exhibits. He arrived with a rifle and he arrived with a small amount of drugs. And that was like contrary to what was being said before he arrived, what was being seized. So I don't want to even visit that. Because what this arrested person, which was arrested earlier, told me he was arrested for, wasn't speaking to what the NIU member arrived with. So he asked me, Captain, can you assist me with processing the suspect? I said, I'm sorry, I can't. You need to get your crew or you need to get one of the Siva or Dina to come and assist you. I am now leaving you here. And then I said, you alone? He said, no, I'm with a driver. I said, get your driver to come and assist you because they needed to fill in certain documents and write statements. And that's how I left here. I drove and I'll never forget, it was close now to 9 o'clock in the evening, about 9:15. Zwane is 100% vegetarian. I know I'm disclosing his eating habits. I know him, he wouldn't even eat egg in a scone. He worked with me for a while. And we were hungry. And I offered to buy a meal. And the only place that was open was the Britannia Hotel. The takeout was closed, but I made arrangements and we bought 2 bunny chows, which we ate, which was vegetable bunnies, broad beans. We ate outside on the bonnet of the car, so we were not in a hurry to get back to that crime scene. We dealt with ourselves first. We hadn't eaten the whole day, so we had something to eat. And I said to Zwane, I'm going back to the scene, but I'm not going to go in. I'm going to park on the road. By then, the ministers and all the high-profile people would have arrived. I was not following anything on social media. I parked my vehicle on the roadside. And that will bring me to where I met the previous witness. And I'm going to say how I met him. The minute I saw the crowd, I pulled my ski mask down. As a beanie, I pulled it down. The reason I did that was, even though people in Durban know I drive that vehicle, some people were unaware that I was now the operational commander in Durban Central. They all still thought I was on the south. So I pulled my mask down, stepped out of my vehicle. Zwane walked down and he went back to his members that he was assigned to. And I heard a conversation taking place between the sector
Captain,
commander.
I might have missed that. Is there a reason why were you wearing a balaclava all this time?
There were lots of gangsters and unruly people that were there. And being alone on my vehicle, I pulled it down. I was in civilian clothes. I pulled it down and I said, I'll sit on my vehicle. But then eventually I got out of my vehicle and I could hear the previous witness talking to my sector commander. Now, what happened to my sector commander? He used to drive an urban cruiser, a new one. He had his lights on the whole day from when he was there, whenever he arrived, because I wasn't monitoring him. His car switched off, so he needed a boost. So he came to me, hey, can you boost me? And I said, no problem, I'm carrying cables, boosted him. But I heard the conversation. the previous, Mr. Loftus, as in Gregory, was having a small argument with him. That's not Houston. He said, no, that's Captain Houston. He said, no, Captain Houston's in Wentworth. Gregory said, no, Captain Houston, I know is in Wentworth. He's not in Durban Central. This guy says, no, he's in Durban Central. In the meantime, I'm already long in Durban Central. It's over 2 years, but they didn't know my status. So eventually I said, these people already know who I am. And they were closest to the entrance of the driveway. So I rolled up my beanie, but I kept my head on because the dew was falling. I kept my cap on and I approached him. And it was there when I approached him. He said, hey, I can see it is Captain Houston. And I spoke to him. When I spoke to him, he greeted me and he said, hey, it is you. And he mentioned some words which could have upset me, mumbled some words, this was all a planned thing. Because he obviously thought I had something with his son, because I had arrested him previously. Then I sympathized with him. I said to him, Greggs, I'm sympathizing with you because it's now hours later. This is like past 9 in the evening. His family were all standing there, but away at certain intervals away from each other, but he was standing with the sector commander, this one of the Venkates. And I said, your son is no more. I just want to sympathize with you, but you must let whatever's happening be subject to investigation. That was my exact words to him, because I was not here to say what happened. And if you're going to hear anything, it's going to be propaganda. Because the only people who knows what happened here are the people inside. And that's how we left it. I did not include in my statement, just to tell you who's one of the Venkates, so you understand how does he get to talk to this one of the Venkates. One of the Venkates, I never knew whilst I was working in Wentworth's daughter. His eldest daughter is a teacher in a school right opposite the police station. She's in a relationship or had a kid from late Bevan's first cousin. His name is Heath Loftus. Heath Loftus is an alleged drug dealer. So Heath and Bevan do not get on. They have the same granny in those flats, Reicher Road flats. That's Mr. Loftus's mother. So what actually happened was, they ended up being directed from the charge office personnel into my crime prevention office, where they had a domestic feud, where he was threatening to take the child away from her, and there was a gun threat in it. But I had met Heath that day, and I sort of, in layman's language, cooled him down properly and said, if there's anything that you're saying that you're going to do, you're going to end up being arrested. It'll work against you. Now, why I'm saying this, I never knew that the lady sitting in my office was going to be one day somebody's daughter that's working now under me as a sector commander. That is one of the Venkatesa's daughter. So if you see why Mr. Loftus, Bevan, was talking to, not Bevan, sorry, his dad, was standing with Venkates. It's closer than just standing there. It's unlike standing and talking to me. It's your daughter and my first blood nephew are in a relationship. They have a child. So they know each other very well. So that's why they were having that argument about who's this Houston here? Is this the same Houston from Wentworth? No, it can't be. And I heard it. It was like on top of their voices because they were upset. He was upset about this whole thing, which was a norm. As a parent, you would have been upset with whatever they're alleging has happened.
Mr. Musikiri, at this point, subject to what you have to say, you may have your own plan. But because Captain Houston introduced the topic, Gregory Loftus's paragraph 74. Yes.
Yes, it's up there, Commissioner Kumalo. We want to deal with that directly.
You will deal with it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Captain, you would have heard from the previous witness, being Mr. Gregory Loftus, at paragraph 73 and 74 of his statement, where It's in front of you there. I think you can see it there. He deals with the encounter that he had with you on the pavement of the crime scene. And in particular, paragraph 74, this is what he says you said to him, and I would like to invite your comment to that. He says that paragraph 74.
Does he have the?
No, I don't. Mas, is it in the second part?
Let me arrange it for you.
Is it in this one? 17,
Page 22,
32.
paragraph 74. Page
32.
22.
This one.
So the file will say Gregory Loftus' statement with annexures. Now, I want you to focus on, in particular, paragraph 74, where he makes specific allegations against you as to what happened on the outside while you're waiting outside. He said, it's at paragraph 74 at the bottom of the page. Captain Houston relates that when he entered the flat, he first saw Sihle Zondi laying in a passage in the pool of blood. He then saw 4 men in the lounge lying side by side. He at first did not recognize any of them, but on a second closer look, he recognized Bevan. They were all lying in blood on the floor. He said that it was one of the worst scenes he had been in. He said, I must not leave it because they were executed.
Yeah, that's not my words to him. I deny saying that to him. I would not say something like that. Not to protect anyone's actions, but that is unbecoming on me to say that. About seeing the first person, I didn't even know that person. Up until today, I don't even know. This name is foreign to me. So, with identifying who Bevan was and who the second person, as I said, I don't know his surname, those were clearly identified. Just with a quick glance at them, I could say who they were. The other 3 deceased, I could not say who they were. And there wasn't a second look. When I went in, because I knew they dialoguing about me being in there, I looked and I extracted myself, I left. I was satisfied that there is a shooting, there are 5 deceased, I need to get people out there ASAP. So with Gregory, I would have not discussed such.
Other than identifying his son, did you tell him about the scene? Did you tell him what you saw when you went into the flat?
No. I'll tell you where he picks that up, where he depicts that. Whilst we were up on the flat before we even came down, a picture was circulating. And that picture circulated of social media. There was a family member, I'm not too sure, that got hold of me. It was never my wife, because she's also not on this Facebook stories. And then we said, hey, there's a shooting at Jolette where these people have been shot. It was a sensitive picture. And I was upset about it. I had to wrestle with it the whole night, in fact, for a couple of days. As to say, who would do such a thing? Only somebody who was up at the scene. And it was definitely not forensics that will circulate a picture like that. So that picture he already had. Before he even spoken to me, it was, remember, when he testified, it sounded like the shoot took, say, for example, 2 o'clock. He was there 2:30. I only saw him when I came back 8:30, almost 8:45 in the evening, standing by the gates. I did not communicate with him prior to that. When Zwan and I returned after depositing the so-called detainee and handing over to NIU, only then people saw me close up and I removed my cap. So my communication was short. Clearly, I did sympathize with him. I would do that even if I'm in a shooting with someone. I would sympathize with parents need to know, hey, what their children are up to. We all defend our kids.
Thank you. So you never said to him that it was an execution?
Never mentioned that.
Okay.
He mentions I went in a second time. I did not go a second time and look. There was no second time.
He does not say you went in the second time. He said at first you could not recognize any of them, but on a second closer look, in other words, you went closer. So not that you went in and left and went the second time.
No. I did tell him I identified. I only spoke about his son, that I identified his son. The rest I didn't even discuss who's the deceased, even though I could identify a second person. You must remember, Che, the deceased, the second one that I identified, that I mentioned, his parents didn't even know he was there. They thought he's gone on holiday. That particular detainee that I took to Pinetown didn't even know that that particular individual's no more. And I never disclosed that to him. So when I say I never disclosed, there was no need for me to explain who's now deceased up there. There was procedures taking place. It eventually would have come. Right up until earlier hours, I think it was close to like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not in my statement, but we had to abseil those bodies down. The body bags were too weak. We had to use search and rescue to bring those bodies down. And the families watched from outer. They counted the amount of bodies that were coming down. And they were like, oh, is that correct count? But like I say, that picture that was taken, and it was taken, and I'm going to say this, it could have only been taken by the people who entered it. And the people who entered it is Captain Dina's team. One of his members took that and sent that out to somebody. And that somebody put it on social media. And I heard Chair say in a previous witness, police have WhatsApp groups. I belong.
It was me.
Yes, I remember. And, you know, I sort of like wanted to reach out to you and say, no, man, touch the screen here. Wait, we do have these groups, but why would we, if we're a team of 6, send a picture to each other when we know what's happening there? And if we're going to do that, keep it as a library or keep it as a file, as part of our file of the scene, because we sort of keep transcripts of our scene. Why would we send it to each other? That thing was sent directly to somebody of the public. Whether it was sent to Wentworth, or whether it was sent to Sydenham, or to Marinill, or Newlands, it was sent to somebody who immediately. And I remember that day when I got the call. And I can say this, even though I'm not a computer fundi, I'm still, my grandson's better, I'm going to say it openly. I'm good at weapons, but I'm weak with a computer. I'm saying this, that when it went on Facebook, somebody blocked it. When it went on Instagram, they blocked it because it was sensitive. It was something that was running currently with the other social media platforms. It's a news. So it was a sensitive one. But Mr. Loftus had that already before he even spoke to me. He would have confirmed that that's his son by looking, that's Bevan name there. And he would have identified, as he says, Bevan's friends. I couldn't identify them. I could only identify Bevan and Ryan.
Thank you, Captain. It's unclear as to why you would attribute those utterances, at least attribute and associate them with you. But I would want us, Captain, to go to page 7 of your statement.
Maybe before you go to page 7, Captain, at paragraph, and maybe just for completeness, at paragraph 34, you actually describe the engagement with Mr. Loftus, what it is. Do you want to speak to that?
Okay, I just want to read it quietly before I respond to you. So it was, yes, I think I designed my statement wording like that, Chair, away from this. You must remember that very same firearm, the license farm I referred to, I seized it in Wentworth. And somehow it went back, obviously because the policeman's case obviously didn't go to trial. Outcome I did not follow as respect of it. So I think it would have been normal that you would have had a license farm with him if it wasn't in his safe at home. And yes, his dad he was mumbling a lot of things at the gate. He was upset and he was saying a lot of things. Because obviously of his history, I heard a little that night, I heard more when he testified. I got texts on my personal phone or maybe even my state phone from him, where eventually I did not just respond to him because he was trying to extract stuff from me. And I think, and I'm not pointing fingers, but I'll say it openly, I think one of the Venkatas was one to furnish my numbers because nobody has my personal numbers.
Thank you, Captain. Can we then go to page 7? I want us to deal with your observation of the crime scene. And that, it starts at paragraph 21. So we're going back to on your statement, yes.
Okay.
Can you pick it up from paragraph 21, Captain?
I've got it. I'm just reading it before I comment on it. To summarize it, Chair, my opinion, from my experience, not on this particular day, but on a simulation, if I were to simulate coming through a door. My tactical experience doesn't speak to this movement of these members. Because any tactical movement, whether the door is closed or whether the door's ajar or open, person my frame with a bulletproof vest, if I took you, Chair, and we came into a single door, we were on shoulders with rifles in our shoulders to engage a threat. So I had opportunity to read the statements, and that's for the first time I actually get proper insight as to what actually happened on the inside. But for me, from my experience, tactical movement, firstly, I'm going to comment on Metro. They don't have any tactical movement. They don't know house movement. I would not work with any Metro member, whether he's from the dog unit. He'll end up shooting me from behind.
You shouldn't have been in that room.
What I'm saying, let's start from the entrance to the flat so we get a clear picture. If the threat is inside,
Captain, sorry, can we do this maybe to give better perspective? Because we do mention a statement of Javon Lee China. Perhaps, commissioners, we can go to file number 2. It will give better context to what the witness is trying to explain. So file number 2 on page 420. 420. So, Captain, you'll see there, it says the statement of one Javon Lee China. You will accept that this is one of the statements that you looked at, correct?
that's correct.
Yes, and for the purpose of this discussion, I only want you to read into the record and then you can explain paragraph 4 of that statement. Maybe just read that into the record without explaining first.
Sorry, Chair, you want me to read?
Yeah, into the record, just that.
Read the whole paragraph.
Yes.
Okay, paragraph 4 from Javon Lee China's statement, that's the captain from Metro, reads as follows. As we approached the flat, I noticed that the flat door was open. Captain Rodriguez, which is Pedro, was slightly ahead of me. Captain Rodriguez shouted out aloud as we entered that we the police. I also shouted out identifying ourselves as policemen. There was a lot of movement from the occupants of the flat, from the lounge area, away from us, further into the flat. For a few seconds, I lost sight of the suspects. Suddenly, there was a deafening sound of gunfire coming from the position of the suspects. The suspects fired at us. Captain Rodriguez returned fire. I saw the suspects firing in our direction. I returned fire as my life or lives of my colleagues were in imminent danger. I fired 2 rounds from our department LM5 rifle. I'm not going to read the serial number, it's there. My colleagues, one Officer Munsami, one Officer Shabalala, and Constable Alford, also returned fire simultaneously. When the gunfire stopped, in a couple of seconds, Captain Rodriguez informed us that he had been shot in the abdomen. Fortunately, he was wearing a bulletproof vest.
And then before you comment, can you also go to page 405 of the same document? And the statement starts at 404. And can you confirm that is a statement of Matthew Roger Halford? And can you confirm that is one of the statements that we provided to you?
Okay, I get that. Which paragraph would you like me to read?
405, just read into the record, paragraph 7.
404.
405.
405, paragraph 7.
Yes.
Okay, this is the statement of
It will say Harold.
Matthew Roger.
Yes.
He's a constable. This is the member that is from organized crime, Peter Maritzburg. Paragraph 7 states, I further with Captain Rodriguez, Captain China, that's his surname, Metro Police, one Officer Munsami and one Officer Shabalada, proceeded to the said flat. As we approached the flat, we noticed the front door was ajar. As entry was gained into the flat, we identified our office by shouting verbal warnings at the time. I observed the group of males jump up from the couch and move further into the flat, where we temporarily lost sight of them. At this point, we came under high caliber automatic fire. A stun grenade was thrown into the said flat, and we moved forward into the flat simultaneously firing.
Can you also read paragraph 10 for completion?
Paragraph 10.
10, yes.
Of thing 4 or 5?
Yes. It's on the same page, yes.
Paragraph 10 from the same member states, I later established that I had fired 10 rounds with my state-issued rifle, serial number, and I'm not going to mention it.
And then lastly, please go to page 425. That's a statement of Pedro Rodriguez. And again, Captain, can you confirm that this is one of the 5 statements that we provided to you to consider?
Yes, I confirm, Chair, this is a statement that was issued to me to look at.
And then on that statement, please go to the next page. I want you to read into the record paragraph 7, which is the first paragraph.
Okay, this statement, which I'm reading, is one of Sir Pedro's or Captain Pedro of recent promoted. Captain Pedro, paragraph 7 from SEP's dog unit. I, together with Captain China of Metro, one of Munsami, one of Shabalala, and Constable Alpha proceeded to the said flat. As we approached the flat, I noticed the front door was ajar. As I entered the flat, I identified our presence as police officers shouting verbal warnings. At the time, I observed a group of males jump up from the couch and move further into the flat, where we temporarily lost sight of them. At this stage, high caliber automatic fire began, been fired at us. I immediately began to return fire as we moved further into the flat. During this stage, I felt that I had been shot in my lower abdomen area. Simultaneously, a stun grenade was thrown as we continued to advance forward.
And then lastly on that page, can you read into the record paragraph 10 of that statement?
Paragraph 10 states, I later established that I had fired 12 rounds, meaning 12 shots had been fired with the state firearm or one rifle. I'm not going to read the serial number. It's there.
Thank you, Chair. The story continues where the different police office members have given statements of their account, and we had given those statements to the captain to come and make sense of them. Captain, I think then you can explain to the chair what you're trying to explain about the whole formation there. How do you enter the house, at least in that instance?
Okay, Chair, just again, I will speak about my experience of training. Coincidentally, with my training accreditation, I had trained a trainer with Metro. So where trainer was trained by his trainers, those trainers were trained by me. We do not do tactical movement with them. They do application shoots. To refer to Pedro, the dog unit Rodriguez, he was previously a national intervention member before moving over to the dog unit. So he would have had a bit of experience with house movement or how to enter. DPCI, the constable from Peter Maritzburg, I'm not too sure of his background history. If he was assigned to DPCI straight out of training because he's a constable, or if he belonged to a tech unit. But DPCI, as far as I'm concerned, if you're in a unit, you're a docket carrier, you got no experience. I wouldn't train you tactical police in 1 and 2 movement, house movement. There are 2 NIU members there. Those NIU members do have the experience. There are prerequisites to every house clearance when we're training you. The prerequisite is 7 members to any room. If you got less, we are not to enter. The reason why we're not to enter, if there's a casualty on the state side, then that person leading that group will have to answer. And vice versa. If you look at the amount of rounds the members are counting for what they shot, realistically speaking, if they fired those amounts of rounds in such a small area, then I would describe it as an overkill. I don't have copies, or I was not part of seeing post-mortem reports. I have nothing in front of me. I'm speaking of my experience. I'm going to stick to my experience. Again, I use a chair myself going through a normal house door. There is a tactical movement way in which we cut that door. When you're looking down the passage, we call it you're looking at your 180, straight down. So your threat is either ahead of you or was tucked out of your sight. Now, the way these members are saying in their statements they moved, seemed like they were sucking thumb. If that door was ajar and they managed to set foot inside and I was sitting on that couch, I would have eliminated them. Because I would have had sight on him. Because they should, it's either they had intelligence of the whole setup of this flat. Because if I don't know what's on the side of the lounge, you lost sight of the people. That flat's not very big. So hiding spaces, you're going to run around the corner, you're only going to go 2 meters and you can't go anywhere after that. If you ran the balcony, you're 5 floors up. You're going to jump to your death. So I think it's questionable, or proper accountability should have been done in terms of how they entered, who led this entry. You can see they're all speaking about the stun grenade being thrown over. Stun grenade don't come after you start firing your rifle. The stun grenade, that's what has the name stun grenade. It's a pyrotech we use before you even engage or discharge your firearm. You'd see in the statements, and I'm seeing it now not for the first time, the statements were said and I read, and I don't want to study it paid for, but when I read the story, I said, it doesn't sit well with me from my training experience. Because if they were to simulate that dry fire where they're going through, and I left a manigan around the corner, or 4 manigans around the corner, and I stood there, I would have tapped them on the heads with their dry guns and said, listen, you failed. You would have put yourself as a casualty. That account doesn't marry what tactical movement's about.
Is it possibly a function of what you say is they lacked tactical experience?
Yes.
They should not have been there. Some of them that may well be.
Highly trained. I'll reiterate it. There's an indictment. Highly trained. When the national intervention's not working, they're simulating. That's what we do. We're simulating all the time. It's like a fireman. When he's not out extinguishing a fire, he's not sleeping on a bed if he's at work. He's simulating. He's busy. He's training. It's the same with tactical movement. We do the movement continuously every day until we go out for operations when we needed to go out on operation. There's no space for an error, when I say an error, because we will come back with a casualty, if we're coming back. But I'm saying the way these statements are made, there are members that are not tactical. In other words, the blind is leading the blind. Let's hypothetically say Pedro or Rodriguez was tactical. He fired so many rounds of a rifle, a R1. R1's high caliber, you 1 round, you drop an elephant. You're in a space of less than 4x4, a room. So many rounds. Something is not speaking to whatever happened there of their statements.
Captain, so you highlighted 2 things. I want to ask you about a third one. You highlighted the composition of the team and the fact that at least the dog unit and the DPCI constable may not have had the experience. And also, I guess, Javon Lee, the Metro police officer. The second issue you highlighted was how they were supposed to enter the room. But something strange here, because what the statements seem to suggest is that these 5 officers were ambushed, as if the people who were in that room were waiting for them and were already carrying their firearms. Because they are all saying as they entered, the people inside started firing at them. That's what the statements seem to suggest. But then what is odd is that only Captain Rodriguez was hit, and he was hit by the vest. And the reason why you say this is improbable, you said if the scene happened as they say it happened, they would have been shot or they would have been hurt.
That's correct. You would have been a casualty because, again, I start at the door. Mathieu, I start at the door. The movement shoulder to shoulder. Nobody walks in front of somebody unless you know what you're doing. If you're in front of me, I'll demonstrate it to you. My rifle will be on your shoulder. The next person's rifle will be facing the back because you don't know who's coming from the back. And we will cut this place nicely, as in terms of cut our corners tactically. I don't want to demonstrate the whole foot movement, but they will know as tech people what I'm talking about. Even if the doors are ajar, there's a way you go into a door. You don't know if the person's standing behind the door. So, again, what you're saying, you're absolutely right. I'm saying is, even with panic, they would have shot each other up in that narrow space because they fired so many rounds. That means all the shooting happened around the corner.
And Chair has been careful to point out that we are not so much concerned with the shooting and how it happened. The focus of the commission is whether the police have been infiltrated by the gangsters and the drug dealers and other people. So I don't want to go into detail about the shooting itself. But Mr. John, the DPCI officer, when he gave evidence, he talked about the way the victims were lined up. IPID, sorry, did I say DPCI? IPID. The way they were lined up, because you saw them when you entered the flat, what was your impression of how they were lined up? Does it accord with the statement?
The four doesn't speak to the shoot. Even if I took the picture that was circulated, the four deceased, leave the one that's laying closer in the picture. The four around the corner, that's Loftus, Ryan, and the other two unknowns to me. It doesn't speak to the shoot. When I say it doesn't speak to the shoot, how does one cut a corner and you find four people standing there and you hit them? Now they fired so many rounds. Now if that shots fired missed, they would have hit the walls behind them. Nowhere high up. Is there one round that missed where there's damage to the walls high up?
Do you still have file 2 next to you?
Yes, I do.
Just have a look at 699. They don't have to flight it.
Sorry, Chair, just repeat the number 6.
699, 699.
Yeah, I got it.
So having read the statements and the description of what happened, when you look at that photo, is it consistent with what the statements say happened?
Never. Can't be. That's as how I saw this when I entered for that few seconds. I saw more. The picture's wider than what's here. But it doesn't speak to it. You shoot someone with a rifle, I'm just saying, or even a pistol, close range. The body positions will never be like that. You get shot with a rifle, we simulate it on a shooting range with mannequins. It'll lift you and throw you. Maybe enter and even exit you. There'll be blood splatter all over those walls. So I'm saying on these statements, my opinion is what I read and what I see, for me, it doesn't speak to each other. They need to, whenever, explain how this came about.
Captain, while you are there, can you also go to 767 on the same file, file 2? You let me know once you are there, Captain. 767.
Yeah, I got it.
And then, are you there, Captain?
I got it.
And then I also want you then to move to 771. And then go to 772.
Yeah, I got it.
Captain, maybe in your own words, can you explain what you make of what is depicted on that picture and in relation to paragraph 25 and 26 of your statement in terms of those bullet wounds, those gunshot markings, and some of the blood spatters on the floor?
What page on the statement, Chair?
Now we are on 772.
I got those, the statement.
Your statement, page 8.
Oh, my statement.
Yes, I'm saying in relation to what you are saying on your statement. So maybe you can refresh yourself what you say.
Sorry, which paragraph are you referring him to?
24.
2.5.
We are on 2.6. 2.6. Paragraph 2.6.
Thank you.
This is where you say, having refreshed my memory by looking at the photos of the scene, it is observed that most of the blood spatters were on the lower level of the wall. And it goes on page 9. Do you see that, Captain?
Yes, I see that.
Yes, I've just given you a demonstration of some of the bullets where they landed.
As I said in my statement here, with the statements of the shotters and the pictures taken by the photographer, it does not speak to each other with the statements of the shotters. And my opinion is, as if anyone tried to hide, that they go hiding in the laying position or that they go hiding in the kneeling position, that they stumble on each other. Because it's alleged somebody was firing at the police there. So, or some bodies was firing, that's the allegation. But if you look at all the pictures, the picture they were taken here, these are all low shots. And you can't, a rifle, just to give you the difference between shooting with a pistol and a rifle, if I train a slow learner with a pistol, if they impair the sound going off and they don't follow the fundamentals which I would teach them, they will shoot the ground. And from 5 meters, they shoot the ground. But if they follow the fundamentals and they know their weapons, that's why I said this should be advanced units that are doing house clearances. If you're not trained to do it, don't do it, because you'll end up injuring or killing your own member. You're going through a door. Whatever way your rifle is pointing is the direction in which it's going to fire. So there's no way if you got your rifle in your shoulder, it's going to fire on the ground. So the statements,
Unless it's on your shoulder, nothing stops you from pointing it to the ground.
Let me give you a better simulation, Chair. And it's good you ask this question. It's healthy because not everyone carries rifles. A rifle is about 15 kilos with a magazine in it, 15 kgs. We got tactical belts on these rifles. You don't carry a rifle without a belt. So it supports you with the weight. When you train with a rifle, it's from the safe radio rifles here. But when you engage in a threat, your rifle is here. So the movement is not from your lower hip, 1, 2, 3. By 1, 2, 3, me as a weapon expert, I would double tap you before you do anything. So the rifle will be in the shoulder when you enter in the threat. There's no way when you discharge that rifle, you're going to hit the ground or you're going to fire low. So when we do close contact, we say, whatever direction you point your rifle, if you discharge it, that's the way it's going to fire. So if they went around the corner, for example, and I'm not dealing with what happened there because I was not there, but I'm saying if one goes around the corner, you need to cut with your rifle. So normally the way we would cut, we will drop the rifle, so it's not, the barrel's not seen coming around the corner. Drop the rifle, and as soon as we cut, we lift it up to engage. So you're not firing in a low position. I'm saying from experience, when we dry fire and we simulate, that's the exercise. The movement's never from upward, downward. It's always from here, safe, ready, to your shoulder. It's never up here. Even when we engage in someone that's higher, first floor, second floor, you know, if you're going up the stairs, it's always in your shoulder. It's from there to there. And if the threat's not there, it's immediately here, because you could have someone innocent that will just bypass or come in front of you. But from these statements, like I say, to the pictures, the pictures of where the walls and the floors are damaged, it's indicating clear that the whole shoot, and I don't want to ponder on it, but from my experience, that whole shoot was a low shoot.
So, Captain, you were not there, but in layman's terms, the story as depicted or as set out in the statements does not add up.
Doesn't add up. Firstly, with the amount of rounds they fired. A human being's body is a big target. When we simulate, we shoot on straight pins. We shoot on matchboxes. We shoot on a 9mm cartridge. It's ridiculous.
And perhaps, Captain, to give better context, at paragraph 24 of your statement, maybe read into the record as to how many rounds were shot by each of the 5 members. That's from paragraph 24.1 to 24.5.
According to their statements.
According to their statements, yes.
Yeah. Well, I confirmed this of their statements that Captain Pedro Rodriguez fired 12 rounds with the R1. The magazine capacity there is 20 rounds if it's not an extended mag, but the standard issue is 20 rounds of ammunition. That's a lot of ammunition to be fired. Constable Matthew Roger fired 10 rounds of his rifle. Constable Munsami, the stun grenade. Constable Shabalala, 3 R5 rounds. And Chavon, 2 rounds from the rifle.
Now, I want you to consider, Captain Chair.
Let me take you to 776 and 780. Do we have any idea where those, whether it's the wall or whatever else, where exactly those are supposed to be? And how does that fit in with what you are telling us? I'm not saying it doesn't. I just want you to please explain.
Chair, that 776 looks from if you look at 773, that's looking like that's the passage wall, which leads you to the lounge. I could be subject to correction. If you look at 776,
But in terms of what you said, is that low or high?
Perhaps it will help that when you answer that question on 773, look in relation to the green couch in answering that question. Maybe that will assist.
773?
773,
Okay.
yes.
That's low.
Not sure. It's especially the top mark would have been around what head level. In fact, even above head level if someone was sitting on the couch.
That picture, if we entered as we are going towards the threat, there's no way we're going to engage the wall by accidentally shooting it. When I say no way, the policeman had entered.
I'm engaging you at the level of low and high. Remember,
Low and high.
Your earlier debate was about the marks being low.
For me,
Which is why I was asking, is that low or high?
the ones in the passage I classify as high, as reasonably high. That's hip higher. That's abdomen shot. That's in the passage. 773. We're looking in line with the couch.
Yes.
The others that are
And
still,
then what in relation to your theory, what would you say about these, which you say are not low? Based on your theory about when you enter, this is what you would do.
773, you're referring to, Chair?
Yes.
Again, I'm saying that if you're going down the passage where you're sitting, if that's the wall, if I'm going down the passage with a rifle, there's no way that I'm going to accidentally shoot that wall. That wall can only be shot from an opposite 180 direction. And if you're asking for height, I've given it to you. That's higher than hip height. It's hip and higher.
By that, do you mean someone would have had to be facing that wall?
Someone has to be facing that wall, and that's what we call when you're approaching your 180, you're shooting at 180 straight ahead of you. Even the damage in the wall, hypothetically, if the police shot that wall, the damage wouldn't have looked like that. They would have taken out chunks, big chunks with the caliber. The 223 and the rifle, the R1 rifle, would take big chunks out of that wall.
Have we seen any such big chunks here?
Sorry, Chair?
Have we seen any such big chunks here?
Yeah, if you look at 776,
Yes.
yeah, 776, that's definitely rifle damage. That won't be 9mm damage.
And I guess because we don't see the ceiling and the floor, you can't tell how high this is.
We can't.
That is at 776, and I
Yeah.
would imagine at 780 as well. Did you agree that you can't really tell?
I can't really tell you.
Okay.
Especially with the way that picture's taken, you wouldn't be able to tell. It's a close-up.
Did you get to see these bullet marks yourself, or did you just enter briefly, look at the bodies, identify those deceased that you managed to identify?
With my experience attending the crime scene to confirm, I was led by one of Captain Dina Governor. So he walked me down the passage. I was not even looking kitchen, bathroom. I walked behind him until I saw this. I could see one person name, and then that's when I looked in. I didn't even walk, I'll step over them or anything. I don't want to contaminate. So I didn't look for the bullet holes and whatever there. The damages on the walls. And
Captain, in relation to page 773 that the chair is engaging with you with on, 773, the deceased bodies in relation to that, on which side would that be? Because,
it should be at your quarter past
not your corner past, yeah.
to the picture.
Yes. So my understanding is that those holes will be on your left as you enter that's the corridor.
That's the left.
Yes. But all the deceased, is it correct at least to say that all the deceased were actually on the opposite side of the wall?
That's correct.
Which also creates a difficulty as to why would the police shoot in the opposite direction if their statement is to be taken
That's correct.
very
That's what I
seriously.
said.
Can I just ask a different question about this 773? You say, given that wall, those shootings there, you say, those marks rather, you say if the police had shot at that with this caliber weapons, it would have taken out a big chunk.
Chance, too.
Does that then mean that you allow for different guns or firearms were used other than the rifle, whether by the police or by the deceased? Is that what it means?
Say again, sorry, Chair.
If you say, as you have done,
Yeah.
if you say that if the rifles that we see listed in the statement had been used, a big chunk of that part of the wall would have been taken.
That's
off.
correct.
My question is, does that mean, therefore, that you allow for the possibility that the police officers used different caliber weapons? That's one alternative. The other is that the deceased shot with different caliber weapons.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It is clear that different calibers were used, but the damage that's photographed there. Just take note here, this is all close contact. Just to just to emphasize a little bit detail on when you discharge a firearm close up to a wall. You must remember, there's a thing like a ricochet, can come right back at you. We don't carry R1s unless we're working in the rural. It's for far contact, not for house clearance. You discharge that gun, there's 3 people standing in a row, you can take out all 3 people. It's like a 357.
You can even, with a ricochet, you can even kill yourself.
So I'm saying, I don't know. I was saying yesterday to somebody with security companies, I'm off the topic. The close protectors are carrying these rifles, although they're not automatic. Do they realize that in urban areas where they got principals they're protecting, they can't discharge those firearms? Because if there's a threat and you discharge that firearm, you're going to injure more than one person or kill more than one person. You're going to be arrested. So that's why we have a pistol, because the pistol's for close contact. 80% maximum accuracy with any pistol, from the smallest to the parabellum, which is the biggest. And the rifles only come in for distance. The sights on the rifle set at 300 and 500. Bullseye, I'll let you.
You've been shown quite a number of pages that show markings. Does your answer hold for those markings as well, that you've been looking at?
Yes, I looked at those, even, the one in the ground, I think is one I saw in the ground.
There's some that look obviously low, and then you've got some on the ground. And my question is it the same reasoning that you apply?
Same reasoning.
That if it had been these caliber weapons, there should have been a
That's
bigger...
reasoning. I also just want to say about the amount of ammunition fired from these rifles. I'm not saying when there's a threat, you stop shooting when you've still been fired at, if that's happening. But the state issues fully automatic weapons. There's high possibilities if you don't know what you're doing, you can put your firearm on automatic. Because it has a double lever, that R5. It has a left-hand user lever, which can engage you into automatic with a soft touch. And it has a right-hand lever on either side of the firearm. If you don't know what you're doing, when I train these people down at the range, fire 20 rounds at your own time on your own target from 30 meters. I'll just say, within 5 seconds, all 30 rounds is out and the person's not competent. Because when a weapon's on auto, it runs high. So I'm just saying this, I'm not saying that happened there. But I'm saying is if you look at the spread, you look at the grouping, we call it. Something's not speaking here to their statements. It must have been a long contact to fire this unless you had your firearm on auto. You fire 12 R1 rounds. It must have been a long gunfight, this, which I don't believe was a long gunfight. Otherwise, the whole of Durban's armed response, as in policing, would have been there. This was a quick, short bus.
Thank you.
Perhaps lastly, can you look at pages 779? That marking there, would you say it accords with, are you there, Captain?
I've got it, 779.
Yes, there's a marking there next to the television. What's your observation of that marking?
Again, there's a low shoot in terms of height. It's a low shoot. So whatever direction the shot was firing is obviously firing at something low. The caliber, I'm not going to be able to tell you because if you look at this building closely, I'm not too sure if it's built out of block, as in Corablik block, or if it's brick. But from the plaster work there, a 9 millimeter on block can do that damage. But at the same time, I can say a rifle can also do this damage. So it's debatable.
Chair, Chair, I think we've made the point on the bullets that some of them ended on the floor, some on the lower range, and maybe some on the mid to higher range. But the majority of them, we would say by observation, they seem to be on a much lower end on the ground, Chair. But we cannot exclude some of them that are a bit hip higher, Chair. But that's as much as we can canvass with this witness, at least on the bullets that are seen.
Yeah, I cannot claim to have gone through all of them. We'll see when we do that exercise slowly and carefully. We'll see what to make of
What we indeed, Chair.
yes. Yeah.
But yeah, the exhibit is there, Chair. Captain, what I want to canvass with you while we're dealing with ammunitions is, Chair, I don't intend on going through the post-mortem reports, but what I want to canvass with the witness is the diagrams that they show where the bullet ended. And it's not graphic at all, Chairperson. It's the sketches, as it were, Chairperson. So if, for example, Chair, look at page 440, and Chair can give us indication whether that should be flatted or not. Captain, go to page 440.
What are we seeking to establish with it? Because I'm just thinking once you talk that kind of evidence, one would expect that it be what a pathologist to express his views on that, unless perhaps you.
Chair, I would submit that we don't even need to go there. We can deduce from this witness, Chairperson, given the kind of fire, the caliber that was used, and the injuries that were sustained. And we're not dealing with each injury, Chairperson. We're not demonstrating just 5 injuries that we say to us, that will say that those on their own should have been fatal.
Okay, or doesn't the pathologist say something in that regard?
They would be more useful, but not for that purpose. You would want them always tell us the direction of the trajectory and all of that, and that we're not going to canvass with this witness and the range as to what distance was there. That we're not going to deal with, Chairperson. What we need to demonstrate, Chairperson, it's a simple point, which I think it should be made, Chairperson. I know we're not dealing with extrajudicial killing cases here, but since we've gone this far, we need to at least demonstrate where some of these bullets ended, in line with what we have at least discovered, Chairperson.
Yeah, Mr. Msikide, I wanted to suggest that, there's no controversy that these people were killed in that operation by police officers. And without knowing which shot came first and was the fatal shot, what is the point that we are seeking? If the discussion is not to say, well, there's a headshot there, that shot would have killed and therefore it wasn't necessary to shoot this person further, what would we be seeking to demonstrate?
Commissioner Baloyi, I don't need to go there. But what I want to put to this witness is that what we have, and to an extent that he might want to see, is that when you look at these diagrams in the postmortem reports, they all show that each and every deceased received a headshot wound. And some might have 4 or 5 wounds for the rest of the bodies. And I want to see if you can comment, especially on the calibers used, and accepting that on the facts presented, at least the diagrams presented in the postmortem reports, that there were head wounds that were at least each and every deceased.
I believe I may be wrong. We do know that Captain Houston is an expert in terms of the use of firearms. But I think it's another field of expertise that deals with the wounds that would be on a person, the trajectory, the direction. Am I wrong or am I correct? I believe it's a different type of expertise.
Commissioner, I think I must concur with you.
Yes.
I think when it comes to the post-mortem, and no disrespect to our advocate, is that that's expert evidence, and that must come from a ballistic expert and a pathologist.
Yes.
We can all give our opinions based on the vitals and what damage a weapon can do. But I don't think it's going to make any difference with my opinion, which is a killer shot on there. Any shot can be a killer shot, especially with the type of caliber weapon used there.
I thought so. Mr. Msigidi.
Yes, Chair. No, that is not what I was trying to deal with, Chairperson. But I take the point in as far as the limitations that he can provide. Perhaps I can put a proposition to him and see if he can comment without dealing with the diagrams. And he's more than welcome to say he cannot comment, and I'm happy to leave it there. Captain, to an extent that, at least except for a moment, what we have in front of us is that we know that all the police officers that went in there were carrying rifles. And each of the deceased received a headshot wound from these rifles. And you can comment if you may. Is there a likelihood that having received a shot from the head, from the rifle, from that configuration of the flat, meaning that almost close range, one would have survived long enough to receive further gunshot wounds on the body? If we say for a moment the gunshot wounds were first, we don't know which one came first. Let's say the gunshot wound on the head were first. Is it plausible that further to that you would survive to receive further wounds on your abdomen and torso as we have here?
There is a possibility, realistically, if a human being has been shot, that there's still life after you've been shot. A person can be decapitated and still have movement. I'm saying that from experience. With regards to this, again, I'm going to reiterate that we cannot say which is the killer shot. But what I do want to add, Mr. Chair, is that if there's any movement with close contact shooting, it can result in burns. When I say burns, residue. Rifle residue from where I'm sitting, the cameraman here can have it on him if I shoot past him. Same with me. It can get onto my body, onto my face and my clothing, because it's close up. That's, I think I must just close there, because the question that's put to me is a difficult one. My finding might be, yes, I can hit you in the artery in your right leg and you're normal. The other one would say hit you a headshot and you're normal. But it's all subject to exactly the scene, what would happen there. I'm not going to be able to give you an accurate answer there.
I was only limiting it to the headshot wounds, but if that's your final answer, not any other body parts. It was limited to that, to the body part. To the
if it's headshot, if that's a headshot, you got no chance. Not with what I saw there, because that whole head is blown out. There's no chance that you, even if you got life in your heart is still beating, there's no chance you got of survival of a returning fire or anything.
That will do for now, Captain. Thank you. Chair, that will then do away with having to go through the diagrams, because at the point I think it's made, and as to how the rest of the wounds will be explained and which one came first and which one is a fatal wound, that's something that we'll have to deal with when you make submissions to the commission. But I at least I'm happy to live with that. No pun intended with that answer from the captain. Captain, can we then deal with paragraph 28, just to sum up this section of your evidence? That will be on page 9. That's when you deal with the presence of the dog unit on the crime scene.
Okay, Chair, I think I included this part in my statement. When you're going for high-profile suspects, if they classified as high-profile, dangerous suspects, and a dog vehicle is utilized. Normally, a dog vehicle has a dog on it, and a dog is normally the first line of defense. You would send a dog in, you get 2 types, or you get various types. I'm just going to stick on the patrol dog. Patrol dog is a biting dog. When you release it, there's a robbery and a suspect's running, the dog will bite and subdue the suspect. If there's housebreaking, I'm just using the examples away from this. You release the dog, you got a positive spore or scent, the dog will find the suspect and flush them out. So dog vehicle will be utilized for flushing out a suspect. In this case, there were 2 dog vehicles. There are no dogs. That was, when I say I had no dogs, I never saw dogs, but there were dog vehicles. That was Captain Pedro, who belongs to the dog unit, and Metro Captain China, Japan China. He didn't arrive with a dog. I'm not saying the scenario would have been better, but if they parted the team because they're dog handlers, that's what the dog units will be used for.
Can I just find out, Captain? I think Mr. John, the first witness, he spoke about a task team which is led by Colonel Dina Govender. Now, these people that you're describing, including the dog unit and the Metro police officer, are these part of, to your knowledge, are these part of the task team led by Colonel Govender, or on the day these are randomly put together people, are not ordinarily his task team?
I'll answer this 2 ways, if you allow me to, Commissioner. When I worked Western, I ran the TRT, that's 2017 in Pinter. Pedro worked in my unit as a dog unit, as a dog handler. So we would attend to cash in transit, business robberies, serious crime. I was wearing a beret, I was TRT with my members. He was dog unit, but he was in the team. He would report to me at times, I would even sign his permit when it expired for his rifle. So that was a task team. The task team, I believe that is there as a task team that is self-made up, unless I shortfall of having knowledge that there is a principal who put a multidisciplinary task team. Because when media publishes this, they speak about a multidisciplinary task team like this is a permanent unit. But if you look at this, you can see there's immobilization of certain people only work with certain people. I don't know if that answers you. Again, if it was Lieutenant Colonel Dina, I don't know, but he's a senior person there. Then he's put his team together. So I'm not too sure if his principal, whoever the principal is aware that this is his team. Because if you move in anyway, and from what I've been listening to on the evidence from previous witnesses and what's now come to light, it seems like this team is going all over as a team. So
the same people.
The same people.
Okay, I think that answers my question.
But again, I got a brother at NIU, National Intervention, he's a captain there. And those 2 members fall under him. And we talk daily. When NIU or TRT members are utilized, yes, they mobilize sometimes against their working hours, but not every time you have the same people. So I don't know, it's like when you get a task team, you have what we call a SAP 15. We fill in all the members' names so we can account. this captain, that warrant officer, that constable, and at the back it says, you inspected by me, you're carrying that firearm, so many rounds of ammunition, and we book you on as a task team. Or if this is a thumb suck task team, where you just say, hey, we got information, we're meeting Bamvoti, we're meeting Merenil Chol, there's people coming on, then they immobilize and there's excitement.
Maybe just let me make sure that I understand your answer. So whether this is an established task team with someone who created it with authority, or this is a made-up team, you are able to say that, are you able to say that this group of people that are in this incident, they in fact move around together? Is that when they do operations or when they do their work? Yes.
I've seen them based at Durban Central.
Yeah.
I've seen them because one of the servers from Durban Central, I think he's on secondment. I don't know if he's placed permanent in the DPCI. Dinner reports to Durban Central. I've seen him there in the building. Siobhan belongs to Metro. They're in Old Port Road. They're about 3-4 kilometers away. Pedro belongs to the dog unit. I don't know if it's Durban South or Durban dog units away. So this task team don't have an office. They meet in the street. They meet under the light. And like I said, I don't need to have a principal. I haven't looked into the matter to say, Colonel Dina, is this your task team? Who are you reporting to?
But they move around together. It's really what I'm trying to establish.
It's very evident because I'm not just from previous witnesses, me being operational commander of Durban since 2021. I've seen them.
Okay.
I mean, I could have been lured in with my skills. And I think that's why he didn't even allow me into the scene because he knows I'm the operational commander. I'm not there because of anyone's personal interest. I'm there to see if there's a crime. It came via radio. But I hope I answered it.
No, you have.
There's a big difference, Chair, with task teams. It's task teams either formulated by senior management. You need a multidisciplinary, you need different skills, dog unit, narcotics dog, that type of thing. You need some crowd control, you need tactical people, and you combine this team and you say, go fix the crime up. But this type of team, it's still questions that's hanging. They must answer that.
I am answered. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question? In your experience, the people you've identified in paragraph 24 of your statement, so you have Rodriguez dog unit, you've got Alford, you said it's a DPCI constable, you have Mansami NIU, you have Shabalala NIU, you have Lee China Metro Police. I mean, Metro Police are not subs. And then you've got Hawks, although they are part of the subs, they are a different unit altogether. In your experience, have you ever come across a task team that is made up the way this one looks like it was made up?
No,
Because obviously there would be reporting to different commanders.
I will answer you, Chair. I ran task teams from 2010, as I said, from the Brighton Beach task team, all the way right until I exited. I was the operational commander of a task team. I had a minimum of 40 members always under my command, and I worked operationally. I accounted for them every day. They signed what you call a SAP 15. If one was involved with a shoot, IPO was able to ask me for documents, an OB entry, whatever. Now, these guys book on in different places. I don't even know if they book on. I don't know how they report, you understanding? So, again, to answer you, for me, it's a biryani mix. Is it a team mixed of skills, or is it a team mixed of firepower? And again, I can see error because if I'm a criminal and you're coming through the door and you don't have tactical movement experience, I know from 5 I need to deal with only 2, or I need to deal with 3, because the rest don't have it. You can't be from DPCI and tell me you've been to my range where I trained you how to penetrate a house. You'll stand on the road while the riflemen go in. So I hope I'm answering it. You get a docket carrier. When I ran a task team, I asked the general, please give me 2 detectives where I'm in Richards Bay dealing with a case to sign for those dockets. Our dockets don't get left there. If I'm in Pietermaritzburg, we keep those dockets with our detectives. The detectives will write those dockets up. I will sign it as an officer. It will go to the respective courts or the magisterial district. There's control and there's command. But now if you have like DPCI and you're wide, obviously there's a docket carrier there. There's a task team leader, and the rest are riflemen. So I hope that answers. Like I say, I don't know how they formed.
Yeah. I had a question unrelated, but it's been bugging me the whole day. In a different stream where we were dealing with drugs and drug busts, certain members of the force, whether they're the Hawks or subs, found themselves at a scene of a bust. And they were questioned about their inquiry number because it was suggested that for them to be present at that scene, an inquiry must have been opened. I'm trying to understand whether in KZN, and specifically this scene, that would have been a requirement. For a team like this to go to that flat to conduct whatever operation they were conducting, would they have been required to have an inquiry number? Or could they just get a tip-off and go there and do whatever they did?
Let's answer on the drug first one, Chair. On drugs found abandoned or seized, you open an inquiry because it's subject to an investigation to track and trace the person linked to it. The inquiry gets registered like a docket, and the person, if a detective, must be a detective, whether you're the Hawks, DPCI, or a local station detective. You'll be assigned to carry your inquiry. And then you got to pay attention in all the forensics, moving it to the lab to be tested, to see if it's drugs and whatever. With regards to the other part, I haven't heard of an inquiry being opened when you're pursuing suspects allegedly wanted for, let's just say, serious violent crimes. They should have been having dockets, J50s, etc. You cannot act impulsively. Yes, information comes through informer networks, but then once you have the informers go in Cape Town and he's on a bus, you can still apply for the documents. Because you don't have to walk in physically into the court, you can make a phone call and you can get the necessary documents. So I don't know if that's been followed. I don't accredit whoever's overseeing carrying whatever. Or if there's nothing they're carrying, then I think there's questions to answer there.
You have a docket and a docket number, even when there's no identifiable complainant.
No. Unless there's a state case open. The state case means there's a complainant. There'll be state as per Captain Houston, SAPS, Durban Central. Then say I recovered a AK-47. That refers you, Chair, to the inquiry now. So I'm registering it saying I'm going to do touch DNA on it, and I got an informer saying it belongs to Joe Slovo, and I'm going to start checking him. And after I get all my statements, I apply for J50 and I check Joe Slovo. But there's no docket that can have no complainant, whether the elements of the crime is there. And the complainant themselves doesn't have to be, let's just say, the victim. You can open a case on behalf of a person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Captain, can we then go to the tail end of your statement on page 12, where we deal with comments and closing remarks? And the subtopic there is truck towing, taxi, and drugs. And you can deal with paragraph 35 and 36 together in your summary.
To sum it up, Chair, to be honest, there was much more in my statement which I took out because I do not work on presumption. I like to work on fact, and fact is how I will present it. This is a fact. Not only in the Durban area, it's throughout South Africa. Yes, there's some areas, Western Cape, Gauteng, and KZN, it is rife. But the taxi, it might not be in the statement like that. The tow trucking, the taxis, the ambulance, and now security companies of reason to arm yourselves have become the latest building blocks to the illicit activities that's happening. So what am I saying? I'm saying is there are tow truck drivers that are dealing with drugs. Again, I will say not everybody, because there's some honest ones. There are some ambulance owners which are also dealing in drugs. When you check the history, you look past them, they own tow trucks. You go further, they marry security companies into it. Security companies get them armed. They register a company and start buying 100, 200 firearms. Now they got protectors. Everyone is moving at 10 people on their shoulders with rifles. So that's what's happening, not just in the taxi industry.
Do you personally know of arrests involving tow truck drivers or owners
In respect of?
of drugs?
Yes, in the Wentworth area, there's been lots of people, maybe not caught with their tow trucks, but owning tow trucks that have been arrested for drugs. In the Durban area as well, people have been arrested. Now, there's a difference between owner and driver. Because owner can easily say, hey, I don't know what driver's doing, I'm not the custodian.
That's why I think I said or.
Exactly, and that's why I changed my statement a bit, because I don't want to work on a presumption. I'm not saying if I didn't process you whilst I had the badge, I cannot say that you're involved with something. And that is fact, I cannot say. It's like somebody can say, I'm involved with illicit activities, but if I wasn't arrested, nothing showing I'm involved for that illicit activity. But these industries are fueling what you're saying, opening the graves, because people want to control these industries. These are the lucrative businesses, as described by previous witnesses, that are out there. Tow trucking has always been linked to gangsterism. It's a violent thing. And just to add on to authorities, the authorities are pushed one side. The metros and the SEPs, they don't even dictate. I'll use one example away from this particular case. I attended an accident, which I thought was an accident in Durban. I was near the Blue Waters Hotel, so I just drove up Argyle, like I'm going west, going home. And I rode onto what I thought was an accident. It was a shooting. And I still send the information for it to be investigated, and I hope that cases are being opened, because I pursued the shooters, because I believe licensed guns were used there. A Land Rover at the intersection of Argyle Road under camera knocked into a little Corsa bakkie where a gentleman was on his way home from work on a Friday evening. Whilst his leg was broken and he was entrapped, I rode onto the vehicle. That same very Land Rover, with the tow truck attending there, with the police there, was saying, your vehicle is going with you to our taxi rank till you pay for the Land Rover. An ornery driver comes past and intervenes and says, but what you're doing here is wrong. This guy's injured, let's get an ambulance. And he ends up being shot several times. It's on camera. He gets shot like an animal's been hunted close up. So I get it as an accident. And when I get down to the accident, I realize, man, the driver's no longer there. He's taken, but his brother's standing at his van. The tow truck guy is waiting to lift that vehicle. The Land Rover's gone. The Land Rover had the shutters. So quietly I look at the eye in the sky and I say, but I got cameras right here. And I go to the Fusion Center, as they call the Charlie Control, Metro's camera room. And I ask, please, man, I need assistance. And I sit in front of the screen and I look at it. And I see the actual crime. To fast forward, I seized 2 firearms because people came back, they changed their clothes and changed their vehicles, but they didn't come back with their firearms, but they came back with firearm licenses on them. But there were 4 of them. 2 that didn't shoot came back. I forward that case number for it to be investigated. I don't know the condition of the person was shot, but they shot several times with a licensed gun. Now, where am I going to? We speak about tow trucking. The tow trucking guy was dictating. That taxi owners were dictating. If you watch the body language on the cameras and you interview the victim, they had no chance. The police were like eating humble pie. They were quiet at the scene. When I got back and I coordinated scene, and I dealt with the duty officer from the detectives, and I secured the scene for the forensics to come out in it and the photographers, people started to panic. That the next day I got to work, there were two people waiting with their firearms to come hand it to me. But I knew why they had in those firearms. Because they were protecting the shooter. But if you see how it operates, if you drive out in Durban and you knock a taxi, or a taxi knocks you, they take in your car with you, injured or not. So that's how the industry is actually becoming very dangerous. Our roads are dangerous. In layman's language, those are gangsters, if gangsters is the English word. That's mafia, known to the police.
Thank you, Captain. Captain, there are two issues I want to discuss with you which are not in your statement, but only if you are willing to discuss them with the commission or to share them. Firstly, it's in relation to a restaurant in Durban. And I think we had a discussion that you once went there and some implication of the police. Are you willing to share information around that restaurant?
Yes, it's simple. I think where the evidence leaders taken to me is where I extracted certain things from my statement. And the reason I did was, as I said, is if I do not arrest you, or if I don't know anyone that has arrested you, I cannot label you as a positive drug mule or drug dealer. But during my arrival at Durban Central, I was invited by staff, management, and a very same sector commander that one of the bankers is one morning. Let's go for breakfast. They taking me. So I said, okay, fine. I'm not a breakfast guy because I train before work and I normally have something light. That was my program every day, they knew. I went into Morningside and we visited the nightclub, but it's open daytime. And when I got there, I didn't know at the time whose club it was, and they disclosed whose club it was. And this club turned out to be one of the tow truck guys' owners, which his name is all over this inquiry. Where I went with my statement was that I opted to pay for my meal once I had found it out. They did not know I had a history of where I worked in Sydenham for 18 years. And this particular individual resided in Sydenham when he first started off his business with tow trucking. Has now grown into one of the main guys, and that's Mr. Naika. I'm not naming him, but I'm saying I'm identifying him. That's Roadstar's owner. There's no other director to the company. Now, I think if I should elaborate, the question was put because I had put something in a statement because I know we're pursuing or we're trying to get clarity as to how do we identify what's going on here, because there's implications of the tow trucks competing with tow trucks, the drug dealers competing with drug dealers, because this is where all this is going with this particular scene. But I was not in a position to put anything into a sworn statement as to what's actually going on, because I have not been in that relationship where I've arrested or no members that have apprehended the individual.
And to understand you well, Captain, what you are saying, and I will not hold you to that, is that in essence, there is a restaurant somewhere in the central where at least you were told on one account that the police eat for free. Or
Yeah, it's the same restaurant here.
Yes, and that same restaurant seems to be owned by the same Clive Naika that we've been discussing at this commission.
That's correct.
And for that reason, you felt uncomfortable that your meal should be on the house.
That's correct. I just want to, before I close on this, I know it's the last part of my statement, it's not included, Chair. I headed a team, I told you, of different units. The bike unit we'll use on the beach, the smaller roads. So I had a bike unit, members. I had crime prevention, 4 groups, but I made them 8 groups, for example, broke them down with no additional resources. And then I had what you call a field team. The field team, they pursue suspects that are outstanding for detectives, but they work with the detective, they work with crime intelligence. They obviously run it by me or I'm involved with them, especially when there's business robberies. I received a call from the branch commander from Durban Central a few months before I retired. Where am I? And we got a good relation. We sit in meetings. I help him a lot with the suspects that are wanted. And he said, where am I? Where's my team? Who have we put in the boot of the car outside this particular premises? At the premises, the evidence leader's talking about is curfew in Morningside. So I said to him, I'm on duty, my members are on duty. He said, are you in civilian clothes? Now in Durban, I wear shorts a lot. Very informally dressed, a dorm and a marked vehicle, and so does the field unit. So I said, yes, we're in civilian clothes. He said, you're driving a caddy, you're driving a Polo. I said, my members got that. He knew which vehicles we got that are unmarked. He says, hey, please find your members and find out who's kidnapped a person. We got a complaint, there's a shooting at curfew. So I made my way there. When I arrived there, I found a Sydenham vehicle, 7 Ks away from the station. The station commissioner was sitting inside the vehicle. So I asked one of my members approach and find out was there abduction or kidnapping here. And she rolled down the window and she said she heard it on the radio and she responded alone from Sydenham. I found it strange that you would leave Sydenham to come into the CBD. It did not take me long to get there. But whilst I was there, it was established that it was organized crime that had come and take a bouncer from that particular premises, sun up in the morning, which was outstanding for a shooting. I did not pursue the matter, it wasn't even a Durban Central case, but that bouncer was working there. Now I was asked the question, is it the same place that policemen go on frequent? The answer is yes.
Thank you, Captain. And lastly, and only if you are willing to share these details with the Commission, you had indicated that you were involved in an arrest of a police officer, and that police officer had a dealing with one of Clive's uncles. Is it something that you're willing to share, Captain, or something that you're not willing to share with the Commission?
If it's relevant, Commissioner, I'll take it back. When I was in Sydenham, I did say I was there from 1988. During my time, I was there the 18 years. Within the time frame, I'm not too sure the year, but Mr. Naika had an uncle shot by a policeman, and I responded to the shooting. I was working crime prevention. I was much younger, much quicker on my feet. I responded to the physical address that was given. It was, I still remember it because I know the house. I'm not going to mention the house, but when I got there, it was a warrant officer which was stationed at Sydenham. He had earlier went there with an off-duty warrant officer who's now deceased, and he demanded for them to buy alcohol. This was for Mr. Naika's uncle. Unawares that they were there earlier, they came a second time and they refused to give money. This is the uncle I'm speaking about, as in Mr. Naika. And as a result, this policeman shot him with a Glock to his chest on the stairs, and he died. When I arrived there was a lot of commotion at this address, so off the road, I had to go down the stairs, and when I got there, I found Mr. Naika with a pistol in his possession. I checked it, it was licensed. And because there was a shooting, he said he fired 1 shot in the direction of the policeman. I had seized the gun and put it in the station. To fast forward, That case went to trial and that warrant officer was found guilty and he was sentenced. He was stationed at Sydenham with me.
Thank you, Captain. Captain, those will be my questions for you. I don't know if you have any comments or remarks that you want to make.
No, I think I'm good unless the commissioner got it.
Chair, that will be it from our side.
Thank you, Mr. Musigidi. Captain, thank you very much. You are excused.
Thanks, Chair.
9:30 tomorrow.
Yes, Chair.
Let's adjourn until then.